Chapter 98. Alchemy Contest. The spirit inscriptions needed for the water-gathering array were all basic spirit inscriptions. They were relatively easy to obtain, and Qin Yun had long mastered these spirit inscriptions. He had set up a great array like the 9-yang spirit convergence array. Now, it was not difficult for him to set up a simple water-gathering array. He could set it up very quickly. After Qin Yun carved the spirit runes on the bee's skin, he only needed to place purple crystal coins or ordinary crystal coins at the marked positions on it. Then, he would be able to use them as energy to activate the formation. Duan Xian was secretly astonished as he watched from the side. This was because Qin Yun was very fast and proficient in inscribing array formations. The spirit inscriptions were also very well inscribed. He nodded and praised. This water-gathering formation is very good. Qin Yun activated the array formation, and soon, crystalline spirit water condensed and dripped onto the wooden basin in the middle. You've passed the Inscription Master's certification. I'll make a beginner Inscription Master badge for you right now. Duan Xian said with a smile. You are the youngest Inscription Master in the history of our Inscription Palace. Qin Yun only smiled faintly, as though he was not agitated by it. Duan Xian took out his badge and began carving Qin Yun's name. He was extremely excited. A 15-year-old Inscription Master, not to mention the Inscription Palace. Even in the history of this region, there had never been such a person. He looked at the calm smile on Qin Yun's face and sighed inwardly. After 5 years of hard work, not only had he stepped into the 6th-level martial body realm, he was also an Inscription Master. With such talent, only Xiao Yuelon could compare to him. Qin Yun, in 2 days, our Divine Inscription Palace will be holding an alchemy competition. You should come and participate as well. Duan Xian had already carved the badge for Qin Yun to bind it with blood. As Qin Yun dripped blood, he asked, Alchemy competition? I've never heard of it. Duan Xian said with a smile. You might not know this, but this is a very famous competition among inscriptionists. When the time comes, all kinds of famous masters will participate, so you must come. What is the main competition? Qin Yun's heart stirred as he hurriedly asked. Smithing is to take the most basic iron and forge it into spirit iron. The higher the level of the Inscription Master, the better the quality of the spirit iron forged. Duan Xian said with a smile. Master Wei has already won the championship twice in a row. Master Wei is participating too. Qin Yun's eyes widened. Although Master Wei was a treacherous and vicious person, he did have the ability to forge artifacts. Otherwise, there would not be so many people worshipping him just by bragging. Duan Xian nodded and said, Only inscriptionists can participate. You are already an inscriptionist, so you can participate. This was a grand event held once every 10 years by the Divine Inscription Palace. Master Wei only became famous because he got first place in both of his competitions. Qin Yun nodded gently. If it was a martial arts competition, the person he was competing with was only at the 5th or 6th level of the martial body realm. He had the confidence to win. With someone like Master Wei participating in this kind of alchemy competition, he did not have much confidence. When Duan Xian saw that Qin Yun was lacking in confidence, he said with a smile, It's just smelting spirit iron. You're not much worse than them. Qin Yun had a good foundation in blacksmithing, but he had never compared it with others, so he didn't know how good he was. After this competition, I'll be able to have a more concrete understanding of other inscription masters. Qin Yun nodded. For the next 2 days, Qin Yun practiced smelting spirit iron. In the process of smelting spirit iron, ordinary iron ore was first placed in a furnace with alchemy markings to burn. The flames were released by the inscription master himself. Then, he took out the burned iron ore and hammered it repeatedly with a forging hammer. During the forging process, the impurities were removed and the inner force was injected into it to forge spirit iron. 1,000 kilograms of iron ore had to be forged into a thumb-sized spirit iron ingot. This was the standard for the size of spirit iron that had been passed down since ancient times. If one needed larger spirit iron, they could use multiple small spirit iron ingots to form a large one. Qin Yun had long ago forged many such spirit iron in the Divine Inscription Palace. In the end, he even fused the spirit iron with the demonic beast bone to form a higher grade of bone steel. For an inscription master, alchemy and forging were skills that they had to be proficient in. The heavier the spirit iron ingot of the same size, the higher the quality. The alchemy competition should be based on this standard. Qin Yun weighed the spirit iron ingot he had forged. A small piece weighed more than 10 kilograms. It was 2 to 3 kilograms heavier than the spirit iron ingot he had bought in the Divine Inscription Palace. After 2 days of iron forging practice, his confidence had increased by quite a bit. With the purple gold fire, he could also improve greatly when smelting metal. The Divine Inscription Villa was bathed in the warm sunlight of the early morning. A new day had arrived. Today was also the day of the once-in-a-decade alchemy competition. In the dignified and solemn hall of inscriptions, more than 50 inscriptionists stood in an orderly manner. They were inscriptionists from several countries. Most of them were elderly. There were only a dozen or so middle-aged men and not a single young man. The inscriptionists were usually very arrogant, but when they came to the Hall of Inscriptions, their arrogance was restrained. The once-in-a-decade alchemy competition was extremely important to them. If they obtained first place, not only would they become more famous, they would also receive a reward. A reward that even the inscriptionists valued greatly was definitely extraordinary, especially this year. It was said that Blue Spirit Star Palace would also send people to participate. There seemed to be more than 20 inscriptionists from Blue Spirit Star Palace. An old man said in a low voice, "That's not much. It seems like Blue Spirit Star Palace is just like that. There are only 20 or so people in the entire Star Palace." Another old man disapproved. Master Wei sneered. The people sent by Blue Spirit Star Palace to participate in the alchemy competition are all young people in their 20s and 30s. How many young inscriptionists can we have in our countries? Not a single one. Not a single one. This caused all the middle-aged and elderly inscriptionists present to suddenly feel a huge gap. Therefore, we can't lose to those youngsters. It will be very embarrassing. A black costume old man laughed. The inscriptionists of Blue Spirit Star Palace had arrived. A group of people walked in majestically, all dressed in blue. Although they were all expressionless, their arrogance was obvious. On the other hand, the older man in the lead looked at Master Wei with a smile and nodded at him. Master Wei also walked over with a smile on his face and a polite greeting. When everyone saw how good his relationship with the people from Blue Spirit Star Palace was, they were secretly jealous and envious. Master Wei looked at a 17 or 18-year-old youth and said with a smile, "This must be the genius of the Star Nangong Palace, Liang Shuijin, right? To be able to become a beginner inscription master at the age of 19 is truly admirable. Today, I was fortunate enough to finally meet young Hero Liang in person. He is actually so handsome and has an extraordinary bearing. He truly lives up to his reputation." Liang Shuijin smiled slightly and replied with a proud expression, "Master Wei is also a grandmaster inscription that many elders admire. I've heard a lot about you." As they were chatting, Master Wei suddenly saw Qin Yun walk in. The smile on his face froze. "Isn't that Qin Yun?" An old inscription master shouted in shock when he saw Qin Yun. Chapter 99. Meteor Fire. Qin Yun slowly walked in. Although he was dressed plainly, he looked decent and full of spirit. He was confident but not arrogant. He had a calmness that didn't match his age and was very attractive. Everyone's gaze immediately gathered on the brass badge on his left chest. It was a badge that only an inscription master had. There was a gem on it, indicating that it was a beginner inscription master. Everyone knows Qin Yun's age. He is only 15.5 years old. He was about 4 years younger than Liang Shuijin, yet he had already become a beginner inscription master. All the old inscription masters present were astonished. Duan Qian, the general director, also appeared. He smiled and said, "There are quite a lot of participants this time. There are a total of 80 people." General Director, is Qin Yun really an inscription master? Master Wei found this matter the most unacceptable. Duan Qian said with a smile, "Qin Yun can craft talismans to begin with. You personally witnessed it. After he stepped into the 6th level of the martial body realm, he was able to refine a low-grade spirit artifact and then set up a formation. That's why he passed the examination for a beginner-level inscription master. Everyone knew that Qin Yun was at the 6th level martial body realm. This was already unbelievable to begin with, especially the people from Blue Spirit Star Palace. This was because they were certain that Qin Yun, who only had one bloodline, would find it difficult to cultivate the soul scripture. It would take him many years to step into the 6th level of the martial body realm. But not long after, Qin Yun had broken through to the 6th level of the martial body realm and slapped them in the face. At this moment, the most unacceptable thing was that Qin Yun had actually become a beginner-level inscription master. In Blue Spirit Star Palace, becoming a primary inscription master at the age of 19 was enough to show how rare a young inscription master was. However, Qin Yun, the abandoned prince, had grown to such a terrifying level in just 5 years. Everyone wanted to know how much suffering he had suffered to reach this step. Liang Shuijin gritted his teeth. Qin Yun's appearance had stolen his limelight. Not bad, not bad. It's good to join the fun. Don't count on getting a good ranking. Master Wei forced a smile. His son had died in an unknown manner, and the person he hated the most, Qin Yun, had become a beginner inscription master. His heart was bleeding with hatred. Qin Yun only smiled faintly. Duan Gan said, "Today's competition is different from the previous ones. This time, everyone needs to forge 10,000 kilograms of iron into a piece of spirit iron bar. Take note, it's 10,000 gene of iron, not spirit iron." Qin Yun frowned. The other inscription masters also let out exclamations of surprise. Iron, of course, was the iron used by ordinary people. This kind of iron was also smelted from iron ore. Unlike spiritual iron, ordinary iron didn't have spiritual energy and wasn't tough enough. It had a lot of impurities. It was not impossible to forge iron into spirit iron, but the process was very difficult. Not to mention that he had to reduce 10,000 gene to the size of a thumb. Just the thought of it was very strenuous. "Isn't this a little difficult?" a man from the Star Palace asked. Duan Xian said with a smile, "Our inscription palace knew that your Blue Spirit Star Palace was coming, so we took out a very precious item as the reward for first place. Therefore, the difficulty has increased by a lot." Everyone immediately cursed in their hearts. It was obvious that the inscription palace had suddenly changed the rules of the competition. The people sent by Blue Spirit Star Palace were all young people. Their standards were not particularly high. The more difficult the competition was, the less chance they had of obtaining it. "Head Chief, in that case, the reward for first place will definitely not disappoint us." Master Wei smiled and said, "Can you tell us first? Then we'll decide to sign up." Forging 10,000 kilograms of iron into the size of thumb was an extremely difficult task. This group of inscriptionists usually wouldn't do such hard work, especially the older generation of inscriptionists. They would either hand over the forging of spirit iron to their subordinates or buy it directly. A cluster of meteorite fire. The moment Duan Xian said this, all the inscriptionists in the hall revealed looks of wild joy. Qin Yun's heart was thumping with excitement. Legend has it that the meteorite fire was a fire martial spirit that descended from the heavens. If it was successfully fused, it would be able to promote the martial spirit to a fire martial spirit bestowed by the heavens. When Duan Xian saw everyone's shocked expressions, he said with a smile, "Actually, the meteorite fire isn't as shocking as the legends say. It can immediately allow a person to possess a fire martial spirit bestowed by the heavens. For example, it can allow the gold fire martial spirit to advance to the platinum fire martial spirit, and so on. Even so, it was still very good." Qin Yun looked at the people from Blue Spirit Star Palace. They actually wanted to obtain the meteorite fire as well. In other words, this kind of thing was extremely rare in Blue Spirit Star Palace. What's the difference between this and the Flying Soul Stone? Qin Yun himself had the purple gold Flying Soul Stone. Duan Xian replied, "There's a big difference. For example, the gold Flying Soul Stone can only allow the fire martial spirit to advance to the gold rank. There are certain restrictions, and the advantage is that it can advance all martial spirits. But the meteorite fire is different. It can raise any level of fire attribute martial spirit by 1 level. Right now, you have a purple gold fire martial spirit. If you were to raise it by another level, what would it be? Everyone took a deep breath. A purple gold martial spirit was considered a top-notch one. What would it be if it were to be upgraded? They really wanted to know the answer, but they did not want to see Qin Yun's purple gold fire martial spirit improve. You can decide now if you want to sign up or not. Duan Qian chuckled. When Qin Yun saw everyone's expressions, he knew that the registration fee would not be low. Furthermore, he did not have many crystal coins on hand. 500,000 crystal coins, right? Master Wei was the first to walk up. If his fire martial spirit could be improved, his strength would also increase by a large amount. Not to mention 500,000 crystal coins. Even 5 million would be worth it. This year, 800,000. Minors don't need it. Duan Qian said. Adulthood was at the age of 16. Qin Yun was only 15, so he did not need to pay the registration fee. This made him heave a sigh of relief. This rule had always been there, so no one else could say anything. 800,000 is 800,000. Master Wei was very generous. Duan Qian smiled as he received the 800 purple coins. The other inscription masters also paid the registration fee one after another. However, not a single person from Blue Spirit Star Palace came up. Can you wait? The young man leading the Star Palace said with an awkward expression. The arrogance they had when they entered had also disappeared. This was because everyone could tell that they did not bring enough crystal coins. The registration fee of 800,000 per person was something that youngsters like them could not afford. There were 20 people here, which added up to 16 million crystal coins. If the registration fees of the other old inscription masters were added in, it would be a huge sum. Even if the inscription palace handed over the meteorite fire, it would not be a loss. Do you really have the confidence to get first place? Duan Qian chuckled. Although his smile was very modest, it contained an invisible sense of ridicule. Among the 20 of us, someone will definitely get first place. After the people from Blue Spirit Star Palace felt the ridicule, they shouted arrogantly, Can you wait? I'll get someone to send the crystal coins over. Duan Qian's face was still full of smiles as he said, I can let you register first and then start the competition in the afternoon. All the inscription masters were extremely jealous of Qin Yun. To be able to participate in this competition for free, even if they could not obtain first place, they would still be able to broaden their horizons. Chapter 100. Inscription Gate. The registration for the alchemy competition had ended. This meant that the Blue Spirit Star Palace was unable to send their old inscriptionists out. As for the young ones, they had already registered. If they did not pay the registration fee, it would not be easy for them to leave the Divine Inscription Palace. Duan Qian laughed sinisterly, causing the old inscriptionists here to secretly exclaim in surprise. The Inscription Palace had actually placed the Blue Spirit Star Palace in such a manner. Master Wei, on the other hand, was very happy because he had the highest chance of winning this competition. Looking at the joy on his face, it was as if he had already obtained the meteorite fire. He possessed the platinum fire martial spirit. If he could obtain the meteor fire, he would be able to advance to the violet gold rank. When the other old inscription masters thought of this matter, they were filled with worry. The inscription masters all took out their furnaces and forging platforms. The youngsters of Blue Spirit Star Palace all had storage spirit artifacts. It could be seen that their status was far higher than some of the so-called genius martial artists. Qin Yun's furnace was undoubtedly the worst. It was only a half-spirit artifact. The others' furnaces were at least low-grade spirit artifacts. Some were even mid-grade spirit artifacts. This also attracted a burst of ridicule from other inscription masters. Duan Gan said, The time limit for the competition is 4 hours. It had only been 4 hours. The people from Blue Spirit Star Palace all widened their eyes, as if they were shocked. Liang Shuijin said arrogantly, Isn't this competition too short? Duan Qian looked at Master Wei and asked, Master Wei, do you think it's short? Master Wei said with a frown. It's a little short, but since it's a rule set by your inscription palace, we'll just follow it. Duan Qian looked at the indignant Liang Shuijin and said with a smile, in the past, the duration of the competition was only 2 hours, so 4 hours this time is not considered short. Qin Yun's mood was originally heavy. He felt an immense pressure. He almost shouted that the time was short, but when he thought that this competition was prepared for the old alchemists, he could only accept it. At noon, several old men came for Blue Spirit Star Palace. They were old inscriptionists from the Divine Inscription Palace. There were people from the East, West, South, and North Palaces. When the youths from Blue Spirit Star Palace saw them arrive, they hurriedly bowed. Your Divine Inscription Palace is still the same. You're as treacherous as ever, and it's hard to change one's nature. An old man from Star Nangong snorted coldly. He took out a furnace and a forging hammer and said, the furnace and forging hammer are both high-grade spirit artifacts. Arong, take them. The elders of Blue Spirit Star Palace all took out their various high-grade spirit artifacts and gave them to the juniors, causing Master Wei and the others to feel envious. Of course, Master Wei and the others' furnaces and hammers were also very good. Out of everyone present, Qin Yun's furnace was the weakest. It was a half-spirit artifact. This was once again mocked by the disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace. Qin Yun, your inscription talent is not bad. Do you have any thoughts of coming to our Eastern Palace in the future? I am an outer sect elder of the Eastern Palace Inscription Gate. My name is Wang Xiaohua. An old man came to Qin Yun's side and asked gently. Qin Yun also saw that there were no disciples from the Eastern Palace among the disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace. Wang Xiaohua, the outer sect elder of the Eastern Palace's Inscription Gate, was only here to join in the fun. You are the only one in the Eastern Palace's Inscription Gate. And how many years have you been in decline? Right now, you don't even have a furnace and a forging hammer, and you still want to recruit people? Furthermore, Qin Yun only has one bloodline. It is unknown how far he can go on the path of martial arts. The old man from the Nangong sect mocked. Wang Xiaohua said, didn't you say that it would be difficult for him to step into the 6th level martial body realm? But now that he is at the 6th level martial body realm, it might not be long before he surpasses all of you. Another old man sneered and said, there is not a single person in the inner sect of the Inscription Gate. Only you, an outer sect elder, can barely be considered a member of the Inscription Gate. As for you, you're still unable to pass the inner sect examination of the Inscription Gate. Even if you want to accept Qin Yun as your disciple, he will only be following you blindly. At the mention of this examination, Wang Xiaohua could not help but let out a long sigh. Her face was filled with melancholy and grief as she walked out of the Divine Inscription Palace in a desolate manner. An old man sneered and said, this old fellow's 3 sons and 2 grandsons all lost their lives during the entrance examination of the Inscription Gate. The entrance examination of the Eastern Palace's Inscription Gate was the most difficult and terrifying. There was a high chance of death. This was also the reason why the Eastern Palace's Inscription Gate declined. As a result, the precious inscriptions inside have never been passed down. Qin Yun looked at Wang Xiaohua's lonely back, and his heart was slightly moved. He suddenly had the thought of giving it a try. The Inscription Gate sounded very mysterious. No one had taken care of it for many years, as if it had been sealed. However, he needed to have a certain level of strength to go. He planned to cultivate in the Star Xian Wu Academy before considering it. The competition would be held in the main hall. With Duan Xian and a few other elders from Blue Spirit Star Palace watching, no one could cheat. Duan Xian began to get people to bring the iron up and place it beside each inscription master. Each piece of iron weighed 100 pounds, and each inscription master had 100 pieces. They all looked very rough and were stacked beside the inscription master. After being forged by an inscription master, it would turn into spirit iron. It would be able to smoothly absorb inner strength and become even tougher. This year's alchemy competition begins now. Duan Xian struck a large gong and announced loudly. The moment the competition began, the inscription palace was filled with steaming hot air. Every inscription master began to inject flames into the furnace. A good furnace could not only strengthen the flames of an inscription master, it could also absorb spiritual energy to further strengthen it or strengthen it through inscriptions. It was said that some high-grade furnaces could even strengthen the flames of an inscription master by 10 times. Qin Yun's half-spirit artifact furnace only had alchemy runes carved on it. After absorbing flames, this kind of spirit inscription could release an even hotter smelting fire. It was also a type of spirit inscription that strengthened flames. It was a good thing that he had the purple gold fire, otherwise he would have fallen behind even more. Because the furnaces for the others were all high-grade spirit artifacts, they were able to heat up 100 gene of iron in an instant. Then, they took it out and began to forge it. Bang, 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 bang. The sound of forging hammers striking red iron could be heard almost at the same time in the Great Hall. Only Qin Yun had yet to begin. This made him even more aware of the difference in the level of spirit artifacts. Even though his flames were of a high grade and his alchemy inscriptions were high-grade spirit inscriptions, he was still far behind others. That's the only way. Qin Yun frowned inwardly. He released his inner strength into flames and injected it into the furnace, producing a whooshing sound. This method could indeed rapidly strengthen the flames, but there was a huge drawback, which was that it consumed internal energy very quickly. Qin Yun only used this method because he did not want to fall behind others. However, he also had something to rely on. This was because he had 2 elemental energies and the 9 yang divine spirit. His elemental energy had also formed a primordial spirit, allowing him to quickly absorb the 9 suns' spiritual energy into his body. Qin Yun is going all out. He probably won't be able to hold on for long if he uses his inner strength to transform into fire. The forging later on will also consume a lot of inner strength. An old man from the blue spirit Nangong said, "It's time for them to take out the flag array." Another old man said, Liang Shuijin was the youngest inscription master. The amount of inner qi he could store was far inferior to others. Therefore, he first took out more than 20 small flags and placed them around him to form a flag array to enhance the absorption of the 9 suns' spiritual energy. Then he ate a pill. Qin Yun was extremely envious. A flag array was a very brilliant method of setting up a formation. The process of refining a flag array was extremely complicated. Chapter 101. Extraordinary performance. Qin Yun could only sigh inwardly. These people were fully prepared, especially Master Wei and the rest, who had been preparing for nearly 10 years. As for Qin Yun, he only learned of it 2 days ago. It was already too late for him to start preparing. Everyone was curious as to why Duan Qian didn't provide Qin Yun with resources. Otherwise, he wouldn't have fallen so far behind others. The current Qin Yun was almost ignored by everyone. The other inscription masters had already forged a large piece of iron into a small piece of spirit iron and began to forge a second large piece of iron. As for Qin Yun, he just took out the red-hot iron from the furnace and took out the forging hammer. The thing in Qin Yun's hand is the giant king spirit hammer? No, it's not the real giant king spirit hammer. An old man shouted in shock. Only then did everyone notice Qin Yun. The last time he obtained the blueprint for the giant king spirit hammer, he has already refined it. This kind of royal grade spirit artifacts refining concept was very complicated and not that easy to refine. This is especially so when it comes to the layout of spirit runes. The requirements are extremely high, and it needs to be in harmony with the entire design. Otherwise, it will be impossible to succeed. Looks like he has successfully forged an inferior grade giant king spirit hammer. It's said that this is a blueprint passed down from the ancient giant race. The layout of the spirit runes can increase the power of the spirit runes. The real giant king spirit hammer can become bigger. After all, it's used by giants. Qin Yun did not know that the giant king spirit hammer had so many origins. The moment he took out the hammer, he executed the 6-style forging dragon and began forging. Boom! As the hammer smashed down, its momentum was like splitting open a mountain. Everyone looked over in shock. their faces filled with disbelief. A low-grade giant king spirit hammer has such power? One hammer is worth several of our hammers. This guy might be able to catch up. We have to hurry up. We can't let this brat catch up, or we'll be laughed at. Qin Yun had forged with all his might to produce such terrifying might. With just a few strikes, he had reduced a piece of iron that weighed 50 kilograms into a very small piece of spirit iron. After he finished forging a piece of little spirit iron, he hurriedly took out the iron that had been heated in the furnace and finished it with a few more hammers. His speed was so fast that it made those old inscription masters exclaim in admiration again and again. Looks like the giant king spirit hammer can release giant inner strength. I really didn't expect him to have such a hammer. He might be able to catch up. Duan Xian smiled when he heard the worried words of the people from the Star Palace. He had long known how powerful the giant king spirit hammer was, but Qin Yun could not feel it. Even so, he was still shocked by Qin Yun's strength. It was not easy to unleash the power of the giant king spirit hammer. Normally, one would need a profound rank martial skill level hammer technique. Qin Yun's 6th-style forging dragon was not bad either. It was close to a Xian level martial skill. Furthermore, he had learned it to the small success stage and used his inner strength to execute it. There's no need to use a furnace to burn this kind of ordinary iron. Qin Yun looked at the shimmering alchemy patterns on the giant king spirit hammer. It could produce an extremely scorching power. He stopped sending flames into the furnace and placed the unfinished iron on the forging table. He directly used the 6th-style forging dragon to hammer it. The moment the hammer suddenly fell, the alchemy pattern absorbed the inner strength that was poured in and then released a very strong smelting heat, instantly burning the iron red. Just now, everyone was still wondering what he was doing. Now that they saw it, they were all shocked. 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes. In total, it was only 6 strikes. Furthermore, he was only using the first 2 moves of the 6th-style forging dragon. This little bastard, Master Wei, was incomparably jealous as he cursed in his heart. Qin Yun could now dispense with the smelting furnace, so he was much faster than them. Duan Xian was also shocked to the point that his heart skipped a beat. Only he knew that the alchemy patterns on the giant king spirit hammer were high-grade spirit patterns. That was why it had such an effect. In addition, the purple gold fire inner strength could perfectly fuse with the giant king spirit hammer and the alchemy patterns. Qin Yun focused his attention on forging, as though he had fused with the giant king spirit hammer. His hammering movements were natural and smooth, as though he had reached the acme of perfection. Originally, everyone thought that Qin Yun, as the youngest inscription master, was only SOSO. He was even inferior to Liang Shuijin. However, at this moment, he was much stronger than Liang Shuijin. When Liang Shuijin was forging, his technique was extremely clumsy. In the eyes of many inscription masters, this was how a novice should be. As for Qin Yun, his forging was as smooth as flowing water. It was at the level of a master. Qin Yun has struck 50 pieces of iron. Liang Shuijin has only struck 40. An old blacksmith in the Divine Inscription Palace exclaimed in a low voice. The fastest, Master Wei, was only 68 pieces. With a high-grade furnace and forging hammer, he wasn't much faster than Qin Yun. Among the disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace, the most he had struck was 56 pieces, not much more than Qin Yun. Most of the disciples of the 20-star palaces were behind Qin Yun. One had to know that they possessed a flag array and a high-grade spirit artifact. They were actually lagging behind Qin Yun, who they looked down on. Qin Yun never expected that he would be able to catch up. Among the competitors, he was considered to be at an average level. If Qin Yun continues to expend his energy like this, he won't be able to last until the end. The difficulty lies in forging 100 pieces of forged spirit iron into a single piece. That requires even more inner strength to support it. An old man from the Western Palace forcefully mocked. Qin Yun's location was closer to the center, and he was surrounded by a flag array. One of the greatest benefits of this was that he could absorb a large amount of 9 yang energy through the 9 yang divine spirit without being detected. Furthermore, he could also snatch away the spiritual energy attracted by the Qi gathering flag array. After he cultivated his primordial spirit, he could sense spiritual energy even more clearly. Therefore, when the 9 yang divine spirit absorbed spiritual energy, it could also absorb more. Nearly 2 hours had passed. 100 pieces of spirit iron have finally been completed. Qinyan looked at the small pile of spirit iron and wiped his sweat. He was the 20th person to complete the forging of 100 pieces of spirit iron. The expressions of the people from Blue Spirit Star Palace were extremely ugly because Qinyan was faster than their disciples. In the eyes of the old inscription master, the disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace had performed quite well. However, compared to a demon like Qinyan, they were much weaker. Next, Qinyan used the furnace. He heated 100 pieces of small spirit iron until they were red hot and then forged them one by one. Finally, he forged them into the size of a standard spirit iron bar. What is surprising is that Qinyan is still full of energy. This does not conform to common sense. This was because he only had 1 spirit vein and did not eat any pills. Yet, he was able to sustain such a long period of consumption. Even Master Wei, who was at the 9th level martial body realm, would not be able to do this. General Director, don't you think that Qinyan is a little strange? This is beyond common sense. An old man from Nangong said coldly. The reason why your Blue Spirit Star Palace declined and had no choice but to hide in such a place is not without reason. Can't you even tell? Qinyan's inner force cultivation technique has reached the acme of perfection. Only by condensing his inner yuan and cultivating his primordial spirit can he quickly absorb spiritual energy to replenish his consumption. Duan Qin chuckled. Reaching the acme of perfection in inner force was the dream of every martial body realm cultivator. Hearing Duan Qin's words, even Master Wei stopped hammering and looked at Qinyan in shock. The other inscription masters did the same. Chapter 102. Who was first? Qinyan was somewhat surprised. He never expected Duan Qin to see through his essence soul. An old blacksmith's eyes were filled with yearning as he exclaimed. It said that cultivating a primordial spirit is equivalent to opening a spiritual door in one's inner yuan. The surrounding spiritual energy will automatically pour in. Duan Qin nodded and said, even if Qinyan only has 1 spirit vein, he can make up for this flaw because he has cultivated an essence soul. One of the benefits of a primordial spirit is that it's very sensitive to the surrounding spirit qi. It can absorb some of the spirit qi attracted by the nearby flag arrays. Qinyan could absorb the spiritual energy attracted by the flag array. This caused many people to feel indignant. However, the Divine Inscription Palace was only so big. They couldn't avoid it unless they didn't use the flag array. If he didn't use the flag array, then he wouldn't be able to replenish his internal energy. The hearts of the people from Blue Spirit Star Palace were the heaviest. Although the young people they had sent were not bad, when compared to the middle-aged and elderly inscriptionists, the gap would gradually become apparent. What made them feel the most stifled was that their disciple could not even compare to a minor inscription master like Qinyan. If word of this got out, it would definitely damage the reputation of the Blue Spirit Star Palace's inscription masters. The elders of Blue Spirit Star Palace watched anxiously from the side. They had invested so much in the registration fee, but it was all in vain. The main reason was that they had underestimated the inscription masters here. They thought that by sending some youngsters, they would be able to take first place. Duan Qin perked up to prevent anyone from cheating at this moment. He stared at the disciples from the Star Palace. The hall was shrouded in a tense atmosphere as time slowly passed. Qinyan calmed his mind and allowed himself to maintain a stable performance. Persevering to the end meant victory. Even if he could not obtain first place, he would still have gained quite a bit from this competition. He saw that the forging speed of the young man from the Star Palace had slowed down a lot. He thought to himself, the Blue Spirit Star Palace has indeed declined. Their young inscription master isn't too strong. Arrogant soldiers are bound to lose. It seems like it's really as great-grandfather said. They came here to hide and recruit troops. Blue Spirit Star Palace was indeed able to recruit a group of good people, such as Yang Shiryu, Xiao Yuelon, Qin Zhengfeng, and other powerful young martial artists. In the future, Qin Yin also planned to visit the Eastern Palace's inscription gate. It's almost time, Duan Qian shouted. The level of the old inscription master was extremely high. He was able to last until the end and forged 10,000 kilograms of iron into a spirit iron ingot. Among the Star Palace disciples, there were 5 who couldn't reach the end. The iron they were forging was still very big, and they didn't have enough time to finish. Qin Yin also surprised everyone because he had really produced a standard spirit iron ingot. For a 15-year-old junior inscription master to reach this level meant that his alchemy ability was comparable to that of an intermediate or senior inscription master. This was because Liang Shuijin, who is known as the youngest genius of the Blue Spirit Star Palace, was actually unable to complete it. The difference between him and Qin Yin was obvious. He could not help but hate Qin Yin for losing so much face. Without comparison, there would be no harm. If not for Qin Yin, everyone would not have said anything because Liang Shuijin was young. However, Qin Yin was much younger than Liang Shuijin. Qin Yin heaved a sigh of relief and sighed inwardly. He was actually able to last until the end. The inscription masters in the hall did not say anything on the surface, but in their hearts, they secretly admired his strength. A 15-year-old youth, without a good furnace or flag array, without eating any pills, had completed a competition that only a high-level inscription master could complete with just a forging hammer. This was a true genius. It was unknown how much higher he was than Liang Shuijin. Everyone, it's been hard on you. Now, let's begin the weighing. Whoever has the heaviest spirit iron ingot will be number 1. Duan Qian took out a golden pole scale. The spirit iron ingot wasn't big, only a little bigger than a thumb. However, it should have become very heavy after being tempered to the limit. The participating inscription masters all left their positions. The spirit iron ingots they had forged were placed on their forging tables, waiting for Duan Qian to walk down and weigh them one by one. Duan Qian weighed one by one. Tong Ong, 160 kilograms. Chu Enli, 175 kilograms. Su Zongping, 163 kilograms. Dozens of people in a row weighed more than 150 kilograms. It could be seen that the level of these inscription masters was equal. The level of the disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace wasn't too bad either. They were also around 150 kilograms. A spirit iron the size of thumb was already that heavy. This was indeed a miraculous thing. Qin Yin had also read about such extreme alchemy records and books. However, he had never tried forging it before. This time, he had only managed to forge it after bracing himself. Duan Qian finally arrived at Master Wei's table. Everyone immediately listened attentively. Wei Yong, 199 kilograms. It weighed close to 200 pounds and was by far the heaviest. The previous heaviest was more than 189 pounds. Everyone let out a burst of exclamations, but at the same time, they were incomparably disappointed. This time, Master Wei had won again. Master Wei, who had been rather nervous before, finally revealed a pleased smile. The inscription masters, who had a good relationship with him, came up to congratulate him. Duan Qian walked to the side of Qin Yun's forging platform. Everyone immediately quieted down. Everyone wanted to see how good Qin Yun was. After all, to be able to reach this step, he would not be too bad. It's already not bad to have 100 pounds. Liang Shuijin sneered. It's just relying on the purple gold fire and the giant king spirit hammer. His own level isn't that great either. His words carried a strong sense of jealousy. It was obvious that he was jealous of Qin Yin. Qin Yin smiled and said mockingly, I am indeed not as strong as you. You have a top-grade furnace, a high-grade forging hammer, and a set of flag arrays. Although you were unable to complete the competition, it's already not bad that you were able to last that long. The angry Liang Shuijin was about to say something when he heard Duan Qian shout, Qin Yin, 201 gene. The hall immediately went into an uproar as voices of disbelief sounded out. Did I hear wrongly? The spirit iron that Qin Yun struck actually exceeded the weight of Master Wei. That's impossible. Impossible. No matter how heaven-defying Qin Yun is, it is impossible for him to do so with his current strength. General Director, did you make a mistake? The old inscriptionists all questioned and exclaimed in surprise. The spirit iron that Qin Yun had forged weighed 200 pounds. Many people could not believe that this was true. Even Qin Yun suspected that he had misheard. He knew that his spirit iron ingot was not light. He estimated that it was around 180 kilograms, so he did not dare to estimate it to be 200 kilograms. If you don't believe me, you can weigh it yourself, and you'll know. Duan Xian smiled as he walked towards Master Wei and company. They also took out their own scales. In a row, more than 10 inscriptionists came up with the same result. It was the same when it was Master Wei's turn to weigh it. Liang Shuijin, who had been mocking Qin Yun earlier, had an extremely ugly expression on his face. He was known as the youngest genius inscription master. But now, he had been left far behind by Qin Yun. The word genius had become a great mockery for him. The one who could not accept such a result was Master Wei. That was because first place was supposed to be his. I don't believe it's true. Qin Yun is only 15 years old. It's impossible for him to have such a standard. Master Wei had already shook his head. No matter what, he could not accept this result. Chapter 103. Power of smelting. Qin Yun could not cheat at all because everyone could see the entire process. One had to know that a few old inscriptionists from Blue Spirit Star Palace were watching from the side. If Qin Yun really cheated, he would definitely not be able to hide it from them. Qin Yun was also very puzzled. Why was the quality of the spirit iron he forged better than others? After careful consideration, he believed that his inner force was different from others. It was formed by absorbing the spiritual energy of the 9 suns, so it had more spiritual energy than others. Therefore, even though there was a gap between his level and Master Wei's, the amount of spiritual energy contained in his inner force was several times more than others. In addition, he had performed extremely well when forging spirit iron, which was why he had surpassed Master Wei. Liang Shuijin saw that the other inscriptionists were discussing. Most of them were discussing why Qin Yun could surpass Master Wei. His heart stirred as he said, Qin Yun cheated. However, we can't tell how he cheated. Master Wei hurriedly continued. That's right. When we were forging spirit iron, the inner force we injected was at the 8th or 9th level of the martial body realm. As for Qin Yun, he is only at the 5th level of the martial body realm. The strength of his inner force is far inferior to ours. He looked at Qin Yun and shouted loudly. Qin Yun, quickly tell me, how did you cheat? Liang Shuijin was secretly delighted. As long as he insisted that Qin Yun had cheated, his performance in this competition would not be that ugly. An old inscription master from Blue Spirit Star Palace said coldly, Your inscription palace has to give everyone an explanation. After all, we have all paid the registration fee. Otherwise, you will have to refund our registration fee. Since it was related to their own interests, the other inscription masters also began to clamor. They either gave an explanation or returned the registration fee. They felt that even if they couldn't get the meteorite fire, it would still be good to get back the registration fee of 800,000 crystal coins, especially the Blue Spirit Star Palace. They had paid the most in registration fees, but now they couldn't get anything. Duan Xian looked coldly at the inscriptionists and said, All right, I'll give you an explanation. In order to prevent you from saying that I have no proof, I'll use a method that everyone is familiar with to test the quality of the energy produced by Qin Yun's forging hammer. Duan Xian took out more than 10 transparent stones and said, These are energy-gathering crystals. They are extremely sturdy. Even I would find it difficult to shatter them with a single hammer. This crystal can absorb energy after being hit by powerful energy. The more energy it absorbs, the heavier it becomes. Energy-gathering crystals were also relatively rare. They were mainly used to gather the special smelting power released by alchemy patterns. Other types of energy couldn't be gathered. Duan Xian placed the 2 crystals on the forging table and said, "Master Wei, Qingyun, each of you take a crystal and hammer it 10 times. Let's see how heavy the crystal is." Master Wei took out a scale and weighed the 2 crystals. They were the same weight, only one tail. After the other inscription masters saw this, they all nodded their heads, indicating that they could accept this method of proof. Master Wei struck first. He hammered a crystal 10 times in a row with great force. The crystal turned platinum and shone with light. After he was done, he hurriedly asked Duan Qian to weigh him. "This crystal has 3 or 2 layers at the moment. Your smelting power will increase the weight of the crystal by 2 taels." Duan Qian said as he weighed Master Wei. Master Wei weighed it and approved of the weight. The other old inscription masters are secretly alarmed. The formless smelting power actually has a weight of 2 taels. This is a very good level. If it was any other inscription master, they would need 20 hammers to have this weight. "Qingyun, it's your turn," Master Wei urged. Qingyun took out his giant king spirit hammer and struck the transparent crystal 10 times. He repeatedly used the thunder tremor style and the roar style, using inner strength. After he was done, the transparent crystal shone with a purplish gold light. With a single glance, one could tell that it contained an extremely strong smelting power. "You come." Duan Qian gestured for Master Wei to come. Master Wei looked at the dazzling purple gold crystal with an ugly expression. However, he still walked over and weighed Qingyun's crystal. 9. 2 levels. Master Wei's hand trembled as he held the scale. Qingyun's smelting power was of such a high quality. The old inscription master burst into an incredulous uproar. Liang Shuijin looked at the calm Qingyun. His heart was bleeding with hatred because he was destined to become a laughingstock. At the same time, he was extremely jealous of Qingyun's strength. At this moment, many inscription masters looked at Liang Shuijin with eyes filled with contempt. "Qingyun, this is a meteorite flame." Duan Qian smiled as he handed Qingyun a large bead. Sealed within it was a pale white flame. The legendary meteorite flame had been obtained by the 15-year-old Qingyun. Furthermore, he possessed the purple gold fire martial spirit. The old inscriptionists present were all embarrassed. If they lost a Master Wei, it would be normal. However, they had all lost to a 15-year-old youth. The seniors from Blue Spirit Star Palace were also extremely envious. They stared at the pearl in Qingyun's hand, wishing that they could snatch it away. That was something that could raise the fire martial spirit by a level. It was incomparably precious. Master Wei said, "Qingyun, fuse with the meteorite flame on the spot. We also want to see if this meteorite flame is real. Who knows, maybe the Divine Inscription Palace will use something to fool us." Everyone nodded. In fact, they wanted to see how Qingyun's purple gold fire martial spirit would evolve after fusing with the meteorite flame. Duan Qian nodded at Qingyun. The people from Blue Spirit Star Palace who were about to leave also planned to watch Qingyun fuse with it before leaving. Just crush the crystal bead. The meteorite flame will enter your body and fuse with your martial spirit. Duan Qian said, "Generally speaking, the fusion process is very fast. It can be completed in 2 hours." Everyone wanted to see what would happen if Qingyun's purple gold fire martial spirit advanced by another level. Qingyun knew that there was a mysterious black color above the purple gold martial spirit, so he was not too curious. He was only secretly excited that his martial spirit was about to reach the peak. He followed Duan Qian's instructions and crushed the crystal bead. The small ball of fire immediately entered his body. The meteorite flame immediately entered the purple gold fire's elemental energy and began to tangle with the purple gold fire martial spirit inside. Qingyun hurriedly sat cross-legged on the ground and closed his eyes. He calmed himself down and was not disturbed by the outside world. Everyone watched quietly. They hated Qingyun, but they had no choice but to admire him. That was because through his own hard work, he had grown to this stage in 5 years. It was extremely impressive. In the Divine Inscription Palace, everyone was looking forward to it. They waited quietly as they looked at Qin Yun. It was already evening and the sky was dark. The lights in the Divine Inscription Palace lit up, illuminating the main hall in a dazzling manner. 2 hours had finally passed. Qin Yun, who was frowning, opened his eyes. His expression was unsightly and carried a trace of fear. Chapter 104. White Flame Duan Qian was originally smiling, but when he saw Qin Yun's expression, he was given a fright. He hurriedly asked, "Qin Yun, what's wrong with you? Has the purple gold fire martial spirit advanced?" I don't know. My inner yuan was originally purplish gold, but now it has turned pure white. I don't seem to be able to use my inner force to use flames. Qin Yun's forehead was covered in sweat. He did not know what had happened. He activated the inner force of the white inner yuan, but did not produce any flames. Everyone was secretly alarmed as they looked at each other, especially Master Wei, who revealed a trace of joy. Duan Qian hurriedly took out a small spirit pagoda and said, "Test your martial spirit." Qin Yun poured his inner force into the spirit pagoda, but there was no change at all. His martial spirit. Dead, huh? Master Wei laughed. This is the result of greed. You have the purple gold fire martial spirit, and you are still not satisfied. You still want to advance. Do you know the consequences now? Forcefully raising the purple gold martial spirit caused the martial spirit to die. This was only Master Wei's deduction, but the elders from Blue Spirit Star Palace also thought so. Your inner yuan is still there, and there's an extremely strong inner force inside, but it does not have any attributes. Basically, it is certain that your martial spirit is dead. One must know that the attribute of inner force is bestowed by the martial spirit. Your inner force does not have any attribute, so there is no change in the spirit pagoda. An old man with a wrinkled face from Blue Spirit Star Palace said with a seemingly happy smile. When Liang Shuijin saw Qin Yun's ashen face, he felt much better. He said with a sneer, "You still aren't satisfied with the purple gold fire martial spirit. You only have one spirit vein, and now you don't even have a purple gold fire martial spirit. You are completely crippled." Qin Yun gritted his teeth. He absolutely did not believe such nonsense. This was because his vibration martial spirit was still there, and he could still use its inner force. However, he did not know what was wrong with the purple gold fire martial spirit. After fusing with the meteorite fire, why did it become like this? "Qin Yun, let's go back first," Duan Qian said as he helped Qin Yun up and led him away. When they left, everyone in the hall laughed heartily, especially Master Wei and Liang Shuijin. "We have to tell this matter to the Tianqin Palace as soon as possible. They will definitely be very happy to hear about it." An inscription master laughed. "Come, let's go together." Qin Yun's 5 years of hard work were all for naught. The purple gold fire martial spirit is his greatest asset. Now that it's gone, it means that he's finished in the path of refining inscriptions. Ha! This is all because he is too talented. That's why he won the alchemy competition and obtained the meteorite fire. Then he caused his purple gold fire martial spirit to die. He reaped what he sowed. Master Wei laughed. Because Qin Yun's purple gold fire martial spirit had died, the group of people were as happy as if they were celebrating the new year. They left the hall with smiles on their faces. Duan Qian brought Qin Yun to a secret chamber and carefully probed his inner yuan. It was pure white without any attributes. He paced back and forth in the secret chamber, looking a little panicked. He sighed and said, "What the hell is going on?" Qin Yun gradually calmed down. He wiped his sweat and said, "Grandpa Duan, let me calm down first. Perhaps the situation isn't as bad as we imagined." "All right, you know your own situation the best. I hope it's just a false alarm," Duan Gan said. If Qin Yun's martial spirit died, he would feel very guilty. After Duan Qian left, Qin Yun closed his eyes and allowed his inner yuan to release his primordial spirit. He could release his primordial spirit very smoothly. However, This was a black primordial spirit that vibrated with inner yuan. The purple gold fire martial spirit is not dead. I can feel it. Qin Yin calmed his heart and sensed the situation in his dantian. He realized that there was still a very weak connection between him and the fire martial spirit. However, it was not as strong as before. He took out the purple gold flying soul stone and absorbed the energy within it, channeling it into his dantian. I can only use the flying soul stone to try and see if I can activate the fire martial spirit. After the energy of the flying soul stone entered his dantian, it was immediately absorbed by the white inner yuan. The absorption speed was very fast. In just over 2 hours, the entire purple gold flying soul stone had been completely absorbed. When Qin Yin opened his eyes, he was filled with surprise. The fire martial spirit is still here, but there's a problem. After I absorbed the energy of the flying soul stone, that feeling has become much stronger. Could it be that I need to absorb more energy before the fire martial spirit can return? He looked at the white inner yuan and suddenly felt that the white inner yuan might be nurturing an extremely strong fire martial spirit. However, due to the lack of energy, the purple gold fire martial spirit was malnourished during its advancement, which was why it was unable to appear. Could it be that after the purple gold fire martial spirit fuses with the meteorite fire, it needs additional energy to condense an even stronger martial spirit? He could only think so. After leaving the secret chamber, he saw an anxious Duan Qian pacing back and forth in the hall. "How is it?" Duan Qian asked hurriedly. "I feel that it's caused by a lack of energy. I still have a connection with the fire martial spirit." Qin Yin shared his guess and said, "The martial spirit is still in the inner yuan. It might have already fused with the inner yuan. It needs enough energy from the inner yuan to be born." Duan Qian heaved a long sigh of relief and said, "Since your connection with the fire martial spirit is still there, I'm relieved, because there had never been an example of a purple gold fire martial spirit fusing with a meteorite fire. No one knew what would happen. Perhaps it's just as you said. The inner yuan is nurturing a powerful fire martial spirit." Even so, he was still worried and sighed. "Your fire martial spirit can't come out for the time being. Doesn't that mean your inner force has no attribute? What should we do? You can't use flames anymore." Qin Yin was also having a headache over this matter. He sat on a chair and frowned. With a bitter face, he said, "Without flames, I won't be able to forge talismans." "Wait, you just said that you have a reaction with your fire martial spirit. What kind of reaction is that?" Duan Qian stared at Qin Yin with wide eyes. He was a little anxious, as if he was eager to know the answer. Qin Yin thought for a moment and said, "I can sense the existence of the fire martial spirit. I need to use my mental energy to infuse it into my inner yuan in order to sense it." Duan Qian slapped his thigh and said, "Try and see if you can use your inner force and mental energy to condense flames." Qin Yin had never thought of doing so, nor did he ask why. He just did as Duan Qian said. He concentrated his mental energy and seeped into his elemental energy, fusing it with the inner force within. Then, through his strong will to condense flames, his elemental energy suddenly moved and a white flame surged out. "It's a success." Qin Yin opened his palm and looked at the overflowing white flame. He was pleasantly surprised. "Sure enough, your fire martial spirit is sleeping. You need to absorb mental energy to release the flame. Your white flame is also known as the spiritual fire. The stronger your mental energy is, the fiercer the fire will be. It can become stronger or weaker according to your will." Chapter 105. 3 Mysteries Academy. Qin Yin sensed that the white flame in his palm did not have any temperature. However, according to his will, the flame would fluctuate between hot and cold. It was indeed very magical. "Grandpa Duan, how did you know?" Qin Yin asked. "I've heard before that when the fire martial spirit is strong enough, not only does it consume internal energy, it also requires mental energy. It's obvious that your fire martial spirit is of that level. So even if it's asleep, it can still be awakened by spiritual energy and release flames. It's just that it hasn't taken shape yet, so you'll have to work hard on your own. Duan said. Qin Yun's fire martial spirit had not been destroyed by the meteorite fire. Instead, it had become much stronger. However, it had yet to take shape. It was not completely dead like Master Wei and company had hoped. Master Wei and the others are going to be disappointed, Qin Yun said with a smile. This is also a good thing. It can save you a lot of trouble in the future. The talent you're showing now is too dazzling, making many jealous people want to destroy you, not to mention the queen and her group. Now that they think that your purple gold fire martial spirit is dead, they will be a lot more at ease and will reduce their actions against you. Duan Xian wiped his sweat, drank a cup of tea, and said solemnly, "But don't let your guard down because of this. The Empress and her people are constantly thinking of destroying you." Qinya nodded. Previously, when he came here from the Hua Lingwu Academy, he had encountered an assassination attempt by a 9th-level martial body martial artist. Fortunately, the Steel Tiger had suddenly appeared. Otherwise, he would have been killed long ago. What a false alarm. Duan Qian laughed. I also thought that I was finished. Fortunately, I didn't. Otherwise, all my years of hard work would have been in vain. Qin Yun said with a smile. Next, I can go to the 3 Mysterious Academy in peace. In fact, even if he didn't have the fire martial spirit, he could still make a name for himself with the vibration martial spirit. It's too late now. I'll take you to the 3 Mysterious Academy tomorrow. Duan said, Go rest. Although it was late at night, many of the spies and messengers were extremely busy. They were all spreading the news of Qin Yun's purple gold fire martial soul's death. In the palace, the Empress laughed heartily and said, Qin Yun's greed is insatiable. He is not satisfied with the power of the purple gold fire martial spirit and forcefully fused with the meteorite fire, causing the purple gold fire martial spirit to be unable to withstand it and perish. This is the will of the heavens, huh? Empress, news just came that the Crown Prince has been accepted as a closed-door disciple by an elder of Blue Spirit Star Palace. A eunuch ran in and reported with a face full of joy. This made the Empress smile even more happily. Early in the morning, Qin Yun and Duan Xian left the Divine Inscription Palace in a carriage. Although it was early in the morning, on the way out of the city, he could hear people talking about his purple gold fire martial spirit. Furthermore, the news of Qin Zhengfeng being accepted as a disciple by an elder of Blue Spirit Star Palace had also reached his ears. Qin Zhengfeng has indeed joined the Blue Spirit Nangong. Duan said, The Nangong Palace is very close to the Tianqin imperial family. Qin Yun said, Blue Spirit Nangong has a good relationship with the Empress. It's equivalent to roping in the Tianqin Empire. In the future, he will definitely do something shady. Duan Xian sneered. Of course. The reason why this defeated dog, Blue Spirit Star Palace, declined was because they were too arrogant. Now that they have come to this backward border area, they will definitely be even more arrogant. When Qin Yun saw that Duan Xian knew a lot about Blue Spirit Star Palace, he asked curiously, Grandpa Duan, the Divine Inscription Palace doesn't seem to be afraid of the Blue Spirit Star Palace. I can also be considered an inscription master of the Divine Inscription Palace. Can you tell me a little about the Divine Inscription Palace? Duan Xian smiled and said, The reason why you were able to pass the examination of the Divine Inscription Palace is only to prove that you are an inscription master. You are not a member of our Divine Inscription Palace. I can't tell you too much about the Divine Inscription Palace. I can only tell you that there are quite a few Divine Inscription Palace in the Martial Desolate. They are extremely huge existences and are far from something a small sect like the Blue Spirit Star Palace can compare to. The Divine Inscription Palace here was actually built by people from the Martial Desolate. This surprised Qin Yun greatly. Duan Xian continued, Our Divine Inscription Palace also built the Martial Academy with those people, so we will be responsible for some matters regarding the Xian-level Martial Academy. Qin Yun nodded and asked, Then is Blue Spirit Star Palace really that bad? Now, many people will end up going to Blue Spirit Star Palace. Duan Qian sighed. Blue Spirit Star Palace was originally not bad. Now, only the Eastern Palace is considered decent. If you want to go, then go to the Eastern Palace. It is said that the Star Xianwu Academy is also managed by the people of the Eastern Palace. It would be best for you to go to the Star Xianwu Academy. This was not the first time someone had suggested that Qin Yun go to the Star Xianwu Academy. Previously, Yang Shiyu and Xiao Yuelon had suggested that he go to the Star Xianwu Academy. After the carriage left the city, it traveled at a very fast speed. When it arrived at the side of the Cloud Dragon River, it sped along the Cloud Dragon River. One end of the Cloud Dragon River could enter the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range. After 2 days of galloping, the carriage left the borders of the Tianqin Kingdom. The Cloud Dragon Mountain Range is really big. It's connected to several empires. Qin Yun looked out of the window and sighed. That's right. After all, this is a natural barrier that isolates this small area we are in. Duan Qian said, only by stepping into the martial Dao realm can one pass through the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range. Usually, people who step into the martial Dao realm will give it a try, so there aren't many martial Dao realm cultivators here. Qin Yun thought of his great-grandfather, who was also exploring the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range. Duan Qian said, the Three Mysterious Academy is located in the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range. All the martial artists inside are at the 6th level of the martial body realm. If they are unable to step into the 7th level by the age of 25, or if they are not selected by the Xian Level Martial Arts Academy, they will have to leave the Three Mysterious Academy. Could it be that there are many people who are unable to pass the examination? Qin Yun asked, didn't quite a few people pass the examination in the previous Great Ensemble? Duan Qian said, the Great Ensemble is only one of the many examinations that lead to the Black Level Martial Arts Academy. Everyone only has one qualification to participate in the Great Ensemble. If you don't pass the first time, you will need to pass the other examinations. However, after the appearance of Blue Spirit Star Palace, the Great Ensemble was canceled because the content of the Great Ensemble was too simple. Those fellows from Blue Spirit Star Palace are really something. Didn't they do this just to have more students join them? Qin Yun said with a cold snort. The carriage entered the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range and arrived at a large mountain. Duan Qian got off the carriage and led Qin Yun through the air. This is the last part of the road. Duan Qian said, there are quite a few dangers here. Usually, no one dares to approach this place. After running in the air for more than an hour, they arrived at the foot of a huge mountain. There was a huge cave entrance here, and the door was tightly shut. Chapter 106. Volunteer Qin Yun from the Hualing Wu Academy. Duan Qian handed the letter to the old man. Come in. The old man nodded and said to Qin Yun. Duan Qian patted Qin Yun on the shoulder. Work hard. You will definitely be able to enter the Black Level Martial Arts Academy. Qin Yun entered the cave and waved goodbye to Duan Qian. The reason why he went to the Black Level Martial Arts Academy was to increase his strength. As long as he worked hard enough, he would be able to obtain cultivation techniques, medicinal pills, and all sorts of training. After Duan Qian left, Qin Yun followed the white-clothed elder into the cave. After passing through the cave, he arrived at a valley. The environment of the valley was not bad. It was surrounded by huge mountains on all sides. Inside, there were many stone houses and wooden houses. They were all the residences of the students. In the middle of the valley, there was also a large martial arts practice field. There weren't many students in the Three Mysterious Academy. There were only 1 to 200 of them, and they were all at the 6th level of the martial body realm. On the way, the old man asked, Qin Yun, which Black Level Martial Arts Academy do you want to go to? Your decision will affect many aspects of your future in the Three Mysterious Academy. Qin Yun had already made his decision and immediately replied, Star Xianwu Academy. He did not understand why he had to make a decision from the start. The old man said, there's been a great change in the Three Mysterious Academy. In the future, The students will take the examination in a team manner. If they pass, they will enter the Black-level martial arts academy as a team. There aren't many people in the Star Xianwu Academy that you chose to go to. Also, other than the Star Xianwu Academy, the other two Xian-level martial academies, as well as the Blue Spirit Star Palaces Nangong and Shigong, will all arrange for people to come here to guide the students who want to join them. Qinyan knew that the arrival of the Blue Spirit Star Palace would definitely have a huge impact. Many of the rules of the Three Mysterious Academy had changed greatly. The old man told him all of this to make him think it over carefully. How many people are going to the Star Xianwu Academy now? Qinyan was not afraid of loneliness. He was in the same class as himself in the Hua Lingwu Academy. The old man said with a serious expression, 3 people, including you, is 4. At that time, other than the 4 of you, the others will have teachers to guide them, but you don't. When it comes to some competition, there might be a big gap between you and them. Qinyan nodded. All right, I've decided to go to the Star Xianwu Academy. To him, it was good enough to have 3 companions. He really hoped to make friends, and since the 3 of them were going to the Star Xianwu Academy, they might be able to get along. The elder saw Qinyan's determination and did not say anything else. He quickly produced an identity jade token for him and led him to a relatively large stone house on the east side of the valley. This will be your residence from now on. When you hear the bell, you must immediately gather at the training field in the middle of the valley. The old man pointed at the stone house. Go in and choose a room. Get familiar with the 3 people inside. The valley was surrounded by huge mountains on all 4 sides, which was equivalent to a natural barrier. The only entrance was a cave, so it was very safe here. Unless a large number of flying demon beasts came to attack, there would be no danger. After Qinyan entered, he saw a tall, thin, and handsome man in the hall. The man was about 20 years old. He wore a plain white robe and had short hair. His expression was grave and stern, and his deep eyes were extremely sharp. When he looked over, he could feel the sharpness of a sword closing in on him. Are you a new student? The white-clothed man asked as he sized up Qinyan. Yes, I am Qinyan. Please give me your guidance, brother. Qinyan cupped his fists and said, I am Xia Wufeng. Although the white-clothed man exuded an arrogant aura, he was very polite when he spoke. At this moment, a tall and sturdy bald man walked out. He wore coarse-hem clothes and had a simple and honest smile on his face. When he saw Qinyan, he said with a smile, I just arrived. So young. My name is Wuzhong, hello. Qinyan smiled. The door of the other room also opened, and a handsome man with long, elegant hair walked out. He was dressed in luxurious blue clothes, and there was a devilish smile on his face. He held a folding fan in his hand, and he had the demeanor of a young master. Qinyan? I seem to have heard of this name before. Little brother, hello, I am Morong Darren. From now on, you will be under my protection. If anyone dares to bully you, just say my name. Lord Morong, Qinyan said in a low voice. Great benevolence and righteousness. Morong Darren chuckled. Qinyan secretly despised this name. If he were to call him by his name, he would more or less suffer a loss. He said with a smile, Brother Morong, if you had a younger brother, would he be called Morong Day? Morong Darren laughed out loud. How did you know? I do have a younger brother called Morong Day, but he is already dead. When it came to the matter of his brother's death, he was still able to laugh so happily. There was most likely a huge contradiction. Qinyan, don't you know that there is a huge change in the Three Mysterious Academy? The attitude of the Star Xianwu Academy towards recruiting disciples has always been that if there is one, then there is no need. That's why they don't care about us. Morong Darren poured Qinyan a cup of tea and asked. Huizhong and Xia Wufeng also seemed curious as to why Qinyan wanted to join the Star Xianwu Academy. Qinyan said, Before I came, I had already decided to join the Star Xianwu Academy. No matter what, I have to give it a try. Huizhong sighed and said, Xia has been here for 4 years and has yet to be chosen by the Star Xianwu Academy. I have been here for 3 years, and I have not passed the examination. The reason why I want to go to the Star Xianwu Academy is because I don't need to agree to too many harsh conditions. Murong Darren laughed and said, "Don't worry, we will be able to enter one day. If we hadn't been tricked when we first came in, we would already be in the Star Xianwu Academy." Qin Yun could tell from his aura that Xie Wufeng was extremely powerful. Huazhong and Murong Darren were not weak either, but none of them were able to enter the Star Xianwu Academy. He asked doubtfully, "Tricked? How?" Murong Darren's face was immediately filled with indignation as he cursed in a low voice. "It's all because of those bastards from the Tian Xian Martial School and the Ling Xian Wu Academy. Before the Great Ensemble, they tricked us into joining their martial arts academy. However, after passing the Great Ensemble's examination, they said that they would agree to some conditions. We immediately rejected them. Later on, when we wanted to join the Star Xian Wu Academy, they didn't want us and asked us to take the examination again. Duan Xian had previously said that entering the Three Mysterious Academy would only give him the qualifications to participate in the Great Ensemble once. If he missed it, the future examinations would be extremely difficult. Huazhong scratched his bald head and said to Qin Yun, "Now that there's no Great Ensemble, you'll have to work as hard as us." Murong Darren was very angry as he cursed again. "Tian Xian and Ling Xian bastards. I'll cripple every time I meet them. How dare they trick me like this?" Qin Yun thought of Meng Feiling and Qi Meilian. They must have decided to join the Star Xianwu Academy from the very beginning, so it went very smoothly. Chapter 107. Quartet Mu Rongjun poured another cup of tea for Qin Yun and said with a smile, "Since you have decided to join the Star Xianwu Academy with us, then we can be considered friend from now on. If we succeed, the four of us will be able to smoothly enter the Star Xianwu Academy, and we will be able to take care of each other in the future." Qin Yun nodded and said, "Brothers, I hope you can give me more pointers in the future." Huazhong laughed foolishly. Although Boss Xie can't pass the examination for a few years, he is very strong, so you don't have to worry about being bullied. Mu Rongjun chuckled. "Brother Yun, don't worry. I, Murong II, am not someone to be trifled with. Eldest brother Xie is the oldest, followed by me. The bald man is third brother Hua, and you're the youngest." Xie Wufeng said, "Originally we still had a lot of brothers here, but after the new rules came out, all of them left. Otherwise, it would be very lively. Those pigs are *T brothers. They will be our enemies in the future." Mu Rongjun coldly snorted and said, "A bunch of ungrateful bastards. To think that we treated them so well. They just left without saying a word." Qin Yun had previously known that if he chose to join the Star Xianwu Academy, there would be no teacher to guide him. If he joined another martial arts academy, not only would he be able to receive guidance from teacher, he would also be selected if he performed outstandingly. Huazhong smiled and said, "It doesn't matter. If they join other martial academies in the future, they will suffer." Mu Rongjun took a sip of tea and said, "Brother Yun, your name is Qin Yun. What relationship do you have with the Tianqin Empire? I think I'm familiar with this name. We've been here for many years, and we rarely hear about the outside world. You're the only newcomer." "I am a prince of the Tianqin Empire," Qin Yun said. "The prince of the Tianqin Empire? Do you know Yan Qingyu and Meng Feiling?" Mu Rongjun was slightly surprised as he asked. Xie Wufeng and Huazhong are also pondering. They suddenly feel that Qin Yun's name is very familiar. "I know Meng Feiling. She's my senior," Qin Yun said with a smile. "This damned seductive woman. You have to stay away from her. She cheated me of a lot of good things." Mu Rongjun cursed in a low voice. "She specializes in tricking simple and honest people like me." Huazhong laughed and said, "Why didn't Brother Xie and I get tricked by her? I heard that those who had bad intentions towards her were all swindled out of their valuables." Qin Yun snickered in his heart. No matter how he looked at it, Murong Darren did not look like an honest person. At the same time, he secretly admired Meng Feiling. She had actually made a huge profit in the Three Mysterious Academy. Xie Wufeng suddenly said in a deep voice, "Qin Yun, I finally remember, you're the crown prince of Tianqin, right?" Huizhong and Murong Darren were shocked. Qin Yun shook his head and sighed. I used to be, but later I was crippled. Huizhong also shouted, I remember now. You are the Qin Yun who was suspected of cultivating a demonic art and had 4 of your spirit veins extracted. Murong Jun took a deep breath. So, you only have 1 spirit vein now. You have actually stepped into the 6th level martial body realm, and you are still so young. Qin Yun said with a wry smile, There's nothing I can do. I was forced to do this. If I didn't work hard, I would be dead by now. The students here were isolated from the outside world. Only by going out would they know what was happening outside. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so unfamiliar with Qin Yun's name. Huizhong rubbed his bald head and said with a smile, It's fine. Boss Xie only has 2 spirit veins and is also a prince. However, he is very strong now. Qin Yun immediately thought of the royal family of the Xie family. It was a small country, and it could be considered the strongest among the small countries. Suddenly, the sound of a bell came from outside. Murong Jun shouted, It's time to gather. I wonder what they are going to announce. It's usually nothing good. Let's go. Xie Wufeng quickly walked out with his hands behind his back. Qin Yun and company followed behind him. On the flat ground in the middle of the valley stood more than a dozen groups of people. They were all teams. At most, there were more than 20 people, and at least 4 of them were Qin Yun and company. Xie Wufeng, congratulations. You have an additional hindrance joining you. An extremely arrogant purple-clothed man said with a smile. The teachers of the various teams knew about Qin Yun, so the students also knew about it. Be more respectful with your mouth. The tall Huizhong roared angrily, his voice like thunder. The purple-clothed man sneered. So you guys don't know? This fellow's name was Qin Yun. He did have a good foundation, but unfortunately he had lost it. He originally had the purple gold fire martial spirit, but a few days ago, the purple gold fire martial spirit died. He didn't tell you about this, right? He's definitely afraid that you'll look down on him. Qin Yun possessed the purple gold fire martial spirit, but he was dead. This also surprised Xie Wufeng and company. A teacher said, Qin Yun's strength was originally not bad. Xiao Lang and Yin Qingyu were crippled by him. Qi Shui and Qin Feng were killed by him. It's a pity that he originally possessed the purple gold fire martial spirit, but he was not satisfied. He insisted on fusing with the meteorite fire, causing his martial spirit to reach its limit and die. Xiao Lang and Yin Qingyu were crippled. Qi Shui and Qin Feng had been killed by Qin Yun alone. All the students sucked in a deep breath of cold air. They knew that these people were highly valued by the Black Level Martial Arts Academy. A hero doesn't mention his past glory. His purple gold fire martial spirit is already dead and has no attributes. It is only a ball of relatively strong inner force. A student said, Xie Wufeng, with such a hindrance in your team, you will never be able to pass the examination in your entire life. It's already very difficult for the 3 of you to form a team. Now, there's another one who's dragging you down. Xie Wufeng said coldly, Have you said enough? If you've said enough, then shut up. Don't keep barking like a dog. After being shouted at by him, the students all shut their mouths, not daring to say another word. The white-robed elder who had received Qin Yun appeared. He was deemed by the 3 Mysterious Academy. He walked to the high platform and said, Quiet. Next, you will begin your first team trial. There are many evil beasts in the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range. If you can kill one, your team will be able to exchange for 1,000 Shin points. Shin points can be exchanged for medicinal pills, low-grade spirit artifacts, and cultivation techniques. Of course, you have to have enough. Qin Yun was secretly delighted. Killing evil beasts was his forte. Dean Bai continued, You have a total of 10 days. The team that kills the most will receive a reward of 100,000 Shin points. Teacher cannot accompany you, so you need to prepare your own storage spirit artifact. Other than Qin Yun, none of the students here had a storage spirit artifact. However, the teachers did. In order for their team to win, they reluctantly lend out their storage spirit artifacts. You don't have any storage spirit artifacts. There are only 4 of you, so you won't be able to carry much. A student laughed loudly when he saw Mu Rong Jun's ugly expression. Qin Yun said, I have a storage spirit artifact, but I can only store 50 or so beasts. Upon hearing this, the students who wanted to mock him all held back their words. A storage spirit artifact that could store more than 50 beasts was much larger than the one that their teacher had lent them. This could only store 20 beasts. Chapter 108. A person without a martial spirit was already good enough for a student of the Three Mysterious Academy to have a spirit artifact, let alone a storage spirit artifact. When they saw that Qin Yun had a storage spirit artifact, they revealed greedy eyes. Qin Yun was certain that if he were to meet these people outside, he would most likely be robbed. Go back and prepare, then we can begin. Dean Bai said, when you leave the valley, you can't go through the main gate. You have to climb out yourself. There were huge mountains around them that were thousands of meters tall. Furthermore, they were extremely steep, and it would take a lot of time to climb up. Boss, yeah, I'll go back and get stick. You guys just wait for me here. After Hua Zhong finished speaking, he ran towards the stone house like a bull. Hua Zhong was huge, but his speed was very fast. In an instant, he came out with a long black rod. This was his weapon. Boss, yeah, second brother Morong, where are your weapons? Qin Yun asked. My weapon is this fan. Morong Darren fanned himself and said with a smile, cool, right? Xiao Wufeng said, I don't use weapons. We have to get ahead of them. We can't be with them. If they were to go outside and fight, the Three Mysterious Academy would not care. They would also allow private fights. Qin Yun and company only had 4 people. If they were to meet a large team outside, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. They followed Xiao Wufeng to the bottom of a cliff. Xiao Wufeng looked up at the mountain peak and asked, Brother Yun, do you have a long rope? I'll bring you guys up in one go. Yes. Xiao Wufeng could actually fly and bring 3 people with him. This kind of strength was indeed terrifying. It was hard to believe that he was only at the 6th level martial body realm. Qin Yun took out a rope that was more than 10 meters long from his storage space. Xiao Wufeng grabbed one end and said, the 3 of you hold on tight, I'll fly up now. The others had already started climbing the rock wall when they suddenly saw Xiao Wufeng soar into the air, holding onto a very long rope. Qin Yun, Hua Zhong, and Murong Darren grabbed the rope and followed. You bunch of slow bastards, we'll be leaving first. Pay attention. Don't fall down. Bastards like you won't be able to withstand falling. As Mu Rong Jun ascended, he ridiculed them, causing the other students to grit their teeth. Qin Yun was very curious as to how Xiao Wufeng was able to fly. He could not sense Xiao Wufeng's inner chi attribute. He relied on the fire cloud steps to fly, but his aura was very obvious. He wasn't like Xiao Wufeng, who quietly soared into the air with 3 people. Boss Xie is truly amazing. Qin Yun could not help but sigh. Of course. Morong Darren laughed. I'm also powerful. Other than not being able to fly, I'm not that bad. Brother Yun, you're also very powerful to actually be able to defeat Xiao Lang and those bastards. That's all in the past, Qin Yun said with a bitter smile. It's fine. Isn't it just the death of my martial soul? Boss Xie couldn't even awaken his martial spirit, yet he still entered the 3 Profound Academy. If he hadn't been tricked, he might have stepped into the 7th level of the martial body realm in the Black Level Martial Arts Academy. Hua Zhong smiled foolishly as he comforted Qin Yun. Qin Yun was secretly shocked that Xiao Wufeng did not have a martial spirit. Murong Darren said with a smile, so you don't have to be too surprised. When you have time in the future, let Boss Xie give you some pointers. Because everyone's goal was to enter the Star Xian Wu Academy, Qin Yun was able to quickly integrate into Xiao Wufeng's team. Furthermore, he had defeated Xiao Lang and the others and obtained the approval of Xiao Wufeng and the others. Their 4-man team was the fastest to reach the top of the mountain. As for the people below, they had only climbed 1,000 meters. We have to hurry up and kill as many evil beasts as possible within 10 days. Xiao Wufeng climbed to the top of the mountain and quickly descended to the ground. They had already climbed over the mountain and arrived at the dangerous forest in the Cloud Dragon mountain range. Hua Zhong said, "How can we find the evil beasts? This is not easy." Murong Darren frowned and nodded. "Although there have been many evil beasts appearing during this period of time, we can't just randomly search without a direction. Let's go in and see if there are any traces left behind by the evil beasts." Xiao Wufeng said as he quickly ran out. "Boss Xiao, wait. I can find the evil beasts." Qin Yin hurriedly shouted. He had previously participated in the competition to hunt evil beasts and could sense them. "Oh, really?" Xiao Wufeng said in surprise. "Tell me, how do we find it?" Qin Yin closed his eyes and used his mental energy to sense it. He said in a low voice, "My mental energy is rather special. I can sense evil beasts. Previously, during an exam at the Hualing Wu Academy, I used this method to sense a large number of evil beasts and won in the end." Not long after, he sensed a trace of an evil beast's mental energy fluctuation. Then, he used the flame cloud steps to rush over. Xiao Wufeng and company followed closely behind. Moments later, they approached the evil beast. Xiao Wufeng said softly, "I can sense the aura of an evil beast. I'll go up first. Brother Yin, there's a problem with your purple gold fire martial spirit, so you don't have to fight." With that, he flew out with a whoosh. Qin Yin was unable to track Xiao Wufeng's movements at all. His speed was simply too fast. Amongst the martial artists at the 6th level martial body realm he had met, the strongest was probably Xiao Wufeng. Roar! A beast roar came from ahead. Hua Zhong, who was wielding a long rod, charged in the direction of the roar. Murong Darren said with a smile, "This momentum is very good. If this goes on, we will definitely get first place. Let's see if that bunch of trash still dare to make fun of us. And this is all thanks to you, Brother Yin." "Second Brother Murong, aren't you going to fight?" Qin Yin asked. "Boss Xie and Old Hua are enough. I rarely make a move. Besides, there might be an ambush here. I have to protect you, don't I?" Murong Darren laughed. Qin Yin curled his lips in disdain. Murong Darren was the most talkative. From time to time, he would brag about how strong he was. But now that he needed to make a move, he was chatting and laughing here. "Done!" Hua Zhong shouted excitedly as he carried a giant black wolf over. He said with a smile, "Brother Yun, you're really amazing. You can actually sense evil beasts. Your nose is even better than a dog's." Hua Zhong was tall, and it was obvious that he was born with great strength. He was currently 19 years old and had stepped into the 6th level of the martial body realm 4 years ago. Because he was unable to enter the Xian-level martial arts academy, he had been stagnating. He placed the giant wolf on the ground. Its body had been beaten to a bloody mess. It was obvious that it had been hit by that rod. Qin Yin kept in his storage space and said with a smile, "You guys are really amazing. This is a Class 6 evil beast." It was settled in an instant. "That's right, our team is the strongest." Murong Darren chuckled. After Qin Yin put away the beast's corpse, he said, "I'll continue to sense it. As long as the beast isn't too far away from me, I'll be able to sense it." A moment later, he sensed the evil beast again and brought Xiao Wufeng and company over. Chapter 109. Jade Armored Rhinoceros. After arriving near the evil beast, Xiao Wufeng did not make a move. Instead, Huizhong rushed over by himself and killed the leopard evil beast with a few sticks. His strength was extremely ferocious. Under Qin Yun's search, he killed more than 20 beasts from noon to night. At night, they arrived at the foot of a tall mountain. They dug a cave and rested inside. They lit a fire in the cave and cooked the meat of the evil beasts. It's only been half a day, and there are already 20 beasts. If this continues, your storage spirit artifact won't be able to hold them. Mu Rongjun was very worried. "We'll talk about it when the time comes." Xiao Wufeng looked at Qin Yun and asked, "What's the situation with your purple gold fire martial spirit? Because I don't have a martial soul, I have done some research on martial souls. The process of separating a martial spirit from a person is extremely painful. When your martial spirit disappears, if you don't experience this kind of pain, it means that it's still in your body. Mu Rongjun said, Boss Xia, Brother Yun's martial spirit is dead. This is not the same. Xia Wufeng shook his head and said, when you die, you will be separated from your body. It is equivalent to your soul leaving. The process will be very painful. Qin Yin was secretly impressed by Xia Wufeng. He nodded and said, my martial soul is indeed on me. It's just that something has happened. It's equivalent to hibernating. Huazhong laughed and drank a bowl of wine. It's good that he's still here, Qin Yin said with a wry smile. According to my own speculations, I need a lot of energy to awaken my martial spirit. Right now, I can only absorb fire inner force through my mind. Xia Wufeng shook his head and said, no amount of energy can awaken your martial spirit. If I'm not wrong, your martial soul is currently blank, but it's hiding the fire attribute, right? Qin Yin looked surprised as he nodded. Xia Wufeng frowned as he looked at the fire and stirred the meat soup in the pot. He said, Brother Yun, your martial spirit is in an excellent state, which means it can evolve. This isn't just a simple advancement. Qin Yin and the other two were slightly moved when they heard that. They looked at Xia Wufeng in surprise. Xia Wufeng said, it is said that at a certain stage of the martial Dao realm, this state will also appear. But now, you're ahead of schedule. In other words, when the time comes, you can evolve one more time. Mu Rongjun said in astonishment, if it evolves again and again, wouldn't that mean that the martial spirit is extremely terrifying? Boss Xia, how can Brother Yun's martial soul evolve now? Xia Wufeng is also somewhat excited. He stared at Qin Yin and said, we need to find an even more powerful martial spirit to fuse with. Your dormant martial spirit already has the foundation of the fire attribute. If you fuse it with another martial spirit of the other attribute, it will become a dual attribute martial spirit. Qin Yin also had the vibration martial spirit. If he were to obtain the beast martial spirit's attribute, he would have a martial spirit with 3 attributes. Just thinking about it was terrifying. Of course, you can't rush this, because you need to find at least a purple gold ranked martial spirit. Generally, beast martial spirits are easier to find. Xia Wufeng said again, Boss Xia, how can you be so sure? What if it's not? Murong Darren chuckled and said, don't harm Brother Yun. Xia Wufeng smiled slightly and said, because I was unable to awaken my martial spirit, but later on, I accidentally cultivated to this state, so I now have a martial spirit. My martial spirit is also very special. Murong Darren, who was about to drink, had just picked up his bowl and put it down again. He was extremely shocked. Qin Yun believed that Xia Wufeng must have had a fortuitous encounter. Only by working hard enough would he be able to grasp the fortuitous encounter and become so powerful. Huazhong patted the surprised Murong Darren and said, Second Brother Murong, what is your martial spirit? We still don't know. My martial spirit is the Platinum Bull martial spirit. You all know that. Murong Darren laughed heartily. My martial spirit is a secret. What is the martial spirit of that which Xiao Yuel on? Do you know? Even her parents don't know. Why? Because it's too powerful. My martial spirit is also of this level. I'm afraid of scaring you guys. He raised his wine cup and looked at Qin Yin. He asked, Brother Yun, I remember that Xiao Yuelon is engaged to you, right? That's your fiancé. Qin Yin silently drank a mouthful of wine and sighed. The Tian Shao Empire has long decided to remarry Xiao Yuelon to Qin Zhengfeng, so this marriage can be considered a failure. In another half a year, they will hold an engagement ceremony in the Tianqin Imperial Palace. There's still half a year? When the time comes, we have to cause a ruckus and not let them go so smoothly. Murong Darren laughed. Qin Yin thought so too. However, he had to possess sufficient strength. Otherwise, even if he participated, he wouldn't be able to cause a ruckus. They rested for the night, and at dawn, they began hunting evil beasts. Qin Yin was able to find evil beasts, so they were very confident that they would be able to obtain first place. The only worry was that there wouldn't be enough storage spirit artifacts to store the corpses of the evil beasts. Huizhong had just killed a wolf and asked curiously, "Why are there so many evil beasts here?" Evil beasts were bloodthirsty. Not only would they attack humans, they would also attack demon beasts. There were many demon beasts that were vegetarian. Even though these demon beasts were very strong, they weren't very aggressive and would avoid humans when they encountered them. They would only retaliate if they were threatened. It was said that this kind of demon beast had gained intelligence and cultivated wholeheartedly for the sake of transforming into a human. I keep having the feeling that ever since the appearance of Blue Spirit Star Palace, there have been even more evil beasts. Does this have anything to do with them? Murong Darren lifted the evil beast and handed it to Qin Yin. Just as Qin Yin kept the beast into his storage spirit artifact, he suddenly sensed a mental fluctuation. It came from a demon beast. "There's a demon beast nearby," Qin Yin said with a deep voice. "It's not weak. It should be a rank 7 demon beast. Don't worry about that. With the strength of the 4 of us, defeating a rank 7 demon beast won't be a problem," Xiao Wufeng said calmly. Sure enough, the ground suddenly trembled slightly. The demonic beast that was coming over was rushing over, breaking a few large trees. It was a large jade-white rhinoceros. Jade-armored rhinoceros, rank 7 demonic beast, Qin Yin exclaimed softly. He also saw that there were many wounds on the rhinoceros' body. They were all bite marks and scratch marks from beasts. Just as Huizhong was about to attack, Qin Yin hurriedly shouted, "Third brother Hua, wait. Don't attack first." Qin Yin had learned a lot about demon beasts from Ding Tianshan. Furthermore, after coming into contact with the steel tiger, he was even more sensitive to the emotions of demon beasts. The jade-armored rhinoceros in front of him was heavily injured, but there was no fighting spirit in its eyes. Qin Yin said, "The jade-armored rhinoceros is a vegetarian demon beast. It won't take the initiative to attack humans and beasts. There's no need for us to attack. Brother Yun, this is a jade-armored rhinoceros. It's worth a lot of crystal coins." Mu Rongjun looked at the surrounded jade-armored rhinoceros and said anxiously, "It's also heavily injured. Oldwood can kill it with a few strikes of the rod." Qin Yin shook his head and said, "Some demon beasts are human. If we can avoid making a move, we should avoid making a move. It's bleeding too much. I'll help it stop the bleeding first." He had been saved twice by the steel tiger before, so he was very fond of this kind of intelligent demon beast. He walked over and took out a white medicinal powder. He sprinkled it on the wounds of the jade-armored rhinoceros and quickly stopped the dripping blood. The jade-armored rhinoceros let out a few low howls. It was unknown if it was grateful to Qin Yin. It turned around and faced a certain direction, as though it was preparing for a big battle. Chapter 110. Evil Beast, Leader Xiao Wufeng asked in a deep voice, "How many beasts are there?" "There are more than a dozen of them. They're all class 6 beasts." Qin Yin took out the giant king spirit hammer and said, "I'll join the battle this time as well. I'll fight too." Mu Rongjun waved his fan and said, "Previously, it was only Huizhong, the big guy, who was fighting. Now, the 4 of them were fighting together." "Charge!" Huizhong shouted, and was the first to rush over. That ferocious force was no weaker than the jade-armored rhinoceros. After running for a few dozen meters, he saw a giant black wolf pouncing at him. The rod in his hand nimbly swept out. The 1,000-pound wolf was sent flying with a single strike. It crashed into a tree, and its skin and flesh were lacerated. Huizhong's brute force once again shocked Qin Yin. Mu Rongjun, who had not made a move, lightly flew over. With a light wave of his fan, he released a few streams of inner strength and knocked down a leopard that was on a tree. Following that, he released a ball of condensed purple light that accurately struck the leopard's head, killing it. Although Mu Rongjun was not as simple and crude as Huizhong, he was still very powerful to be able to kill a leopard that was more than 100 meters away. Xiao Wufeng's attacks were extremely sharp. After flying over, his hands danced about, sending out streams of energy that accurately broke the evil beast's limbs. Following that, Huizhong rushed over and beat the evil beast to death with his rod. Qin Yun and the jade armored rhinoceros did not attack. The horde of beasts was dealt with by Huizhong and company. "It's not that powerful," Mu Rongjun said with a smile. He had only killed one evil beast. It was obvious that he was a very lazy fellow. The jade-armored rhinoceros let out a few moos. It was unknown what it meant. "Old Hua, you have the bull martial spirit. This rhinoceros can be considered your fellow countryman. Do you understand what he's saying?" Mu Rongjun chuckled as he gently leaped up and sat on the rhinoceros's back. "I don't understand." Just as Huizhong finished speaking, the jade-armored rhinoceros began running. Mu Rongjun said with a smile, "It's great to be my mount. Let's go." Qin Yun said, "Let's follow him and take a look. Who knows? He might be taking us somewhere." Xiao Wufeng and company could feel that the jade-armored rhinoceros was very docile. This was a feeling they had never had before. If Qin Yun wasn't here, they would have started fighting the moment they saw the demonic beasts. "Brother Yun, come up as well. There's still room for more people." Mu Rongjun laughed. Qin Yun floated up and sat on the back of the jade-armored rhinoceros. The jade-armored rhinoceros was 6 to 7 meters long and about 3 meters tall. Its skin was like white jade and was very smooth and delicate to the touch. There were 2 very beautiful white jade horns on its nose. The front was big and the back was small. It could be said that the jade-armored rhinoceros was a treasure from head to toe. Huizhong and Xiao Wufeng also jumped up and sat on the back of the rhinoceros. The rhinoceros's recovery ability was also very strong. After the bleeding was stopped, a white liquid appeared on the wound and began to condense the damaged white jade armor. How cool would it be to raise such a demonic beast as a mount? This big guy is a vegetarian and is very easy to raise. Mu Rongjun sat at the front and chuckled. If it wasn't for Brother Yun's dissuasion, we would never have known that demonic beasts could be so intimate with humans. Huizhong said with a silly smile, "My martial spirit is a bull martial spirit. I don't like killing cows either." Xiao Wufeng said, "There are also many ferocious demonic beasts. If you don't have enough understanding of demonic beasts, you can't immediately make a decision whether or not to make a move. Brother Yun, you're so young, but I didn't expect you to be so knowledgeable about demonic beasts." At that moment, Qin Yun was secretly grateful to his good teacher, Ding Tianshan. Otherwise, he wouldn't have understood. The injuries on the rhinoceros's body shouldn't have been caused by those dozen or so evil beasts. Qin Yun looked at the wounds and said, "The jade armor is extremely sturdy. It's not something that a Class 6 evil beast can easily break through. I think the jade-armored rhinoceros encountered a Class 7 evil beast or even a stronger evil beast. It might even be the leader of the evil beasts." When Huizhong heard that, he immediately became excited. "Is the rhinoceros going to bring us to find some guy? If that's the case, then that's great. Killing a Class 7 evil beast will definitely give us more Xian points." After the jade-armored rhinoceros ran for more than 4 hours, Qin Yun suddenly sensed the mental fluctuations of the evil beast. Qin Yun's expression was solemn as he said, "There should be an evil beast nest up ahead." The jade-armored rhinoceros suddenly slowed down and did not continue forward. Qin Yun and company jumped down from the rhinoceros's back. "You guys deal with the small beasts. I'll be the leader." Xiao Wufeng looked at the cave in the mountain in front of him. Suddenly, a cold and stinky wind blew through the forest. "The evil beast horde is here," Qin Yun shouted in a low voice. He could clearly sense that dozens of evil beasts were rushing towards him. "Come, let's attack together this time. Brother Yun, you must be careful." After Huizhong finished speaking, he had already flown out. Xiao Wufeng was no longer where he was. He flew over from above. Qin Yun raised the giant king spirit hammer and used the fire cloud steps to charge to the side. The sledgehammer struck the black tiger that was pouncing at him. A thunder tremor style struck the tiger's head. The inner strength exploded, causing the tiger's head to cave in. A Class 6 evil beast was killed by Qin Yun with a single strike. Such strength caused Murong Darren, who was at the back, to be secretly alarmed. He never expected that Qin Yun, who was about the same size as him, would be able to unleash the berserk power of a large man. Qin Yun's movement technique was more agile than Huozhong's. When he dodged the beast that pounced at him from the left and right, he was able to kill the beast that pounced at him at the same time. At most, it would only take him 2 strikes to finish the job. The jade armored rhinoceros also joined the battle. Its snow-white horns killed one after another. It was also very domineering. Although Murong Darren was not on the battlefield, he was very useful from afar. The inner strength he struck from so far away was always able to accurately hit the head of the beast. Even if they didn't die, their movements would slow down. Some of them would even be knocked to the ground. Then, Qin Yun and Huozhong would run over and beat them to death with a hammer. It could be said that Murong Darren's attack was very elegant. It could help Qin Yun and Huozhong reduce the pressure on them. Suddenly, a loud roar came from the cave in the mountain in front of them. It sounded like the roar of a dragon. "Boss, yeah, how is it?" Murong Darren hurriedly asked when he saw a white figure floating out. "It's a black flood dragon. It's very savage. I've already injured it. Now that we work together, we should be able to take it down." Xiao Wufeng said solemnly, "Old Huasan, you have to be careful when you fight in close combat. Try not to get too close. Murong, you and I are ready. Once the black flood dragon comes out, we will use our strongest inner strength. Brother Yun, follow behind Old Huasan and act according to the situation." Xiao Wufeng hovered in the air as Huozhong rushed over with his long rod in hand. Chapter 111. Storage Spirit Artifact Qin Yun followed behind Huozhong and clearly saw the gigantic black flood dragon. A chill ran down his spine. The black flood dragon's body was about a meter thick and dozens of meters long. There were a few large holes in the black scales on its body, and black blood dripped from its head. Those were all left behind by Xiao Wufeng and the jade armored rhinoceros. Whiz! 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 The inner strength that Murong Darren and Xiao Wufeng condensed was like a long sword that flew over, emitting a piercing sound as it struck the black flood dragon's head. Huozhong leaped up as his staff flashed with a golden light. The power of his golden bull martial spirit had already been released to its limits. The long rod seemed to carry a force of tens of thousands of genes as it smashed down on the black flood dragon's head. Boom! The huge rod smashed down, producing a deafening sound that caused all the surrounding trees to crack. So. Murong Darren and Xiao Wufeng struck out with another round of inner strength, all of it concentrated on the black flood dragon's head. "Old Hua, gather your strength first. I'll support you now." Qin Yun saw the black flood dragon roar as it opened its mouth wide to bite Huozhong. He took a step forward and used the giant spirit king hammer to execute the 6th-style forging dragon. The thunder tremor landed on the black flood dragon's mouth, causing several sharp teeth to fall off. Then 2 strikes landed on the black flood dragon's eyes, causing its huge eyes to explode. The flowing light style struck the top of the black sword's head and poured in a shockwave, smashing the large head to the ground. "Let me do it." Huozhong jumped dozens of meters into the air, and his rod fell vertically, piercing through the black flood dragon's head. The jade armored rhinoceros also charged forward, its huge horn piercing into the black flood dragon's neck. Huozhong pulled out his rod and smashed it again. He did not feel tired at all. Qin Yun had used up more than half of his inner strength with those few strikes. All he could do was rest and watch from the side. Finally, the black flood dragon beat the 4 of them and the bull to death. This fellow's strength is comparable to a Class 8 demonic beast. Qin Yun looked deeply at the dead black flood dragon and heaved a long sigh. The black flood dragon was already a little injured. I went in and successfully ambushed it. Everyone's attacks were also very fierce, so I was able to succeed. Xiao Wufeng sighed repeatedly. Looks like the black flood dragon is the leader of the evil beasts in this area. Qin Yun said, "This fellow has not completely transformed into a flood dragon. Otherwise, we would already be dead." Flood dragons evolved from giant pythons and were also very rare fierce beasts. As for the one in front of them, it exuded a baleful aura. With just a look, it was clear that it had eaten many people. "Should we hand this over?" Mu Rongjun said. "The bones of the evil flood dragon must be very good. They are good materials for artifact forging. They should be able to refine high-grade bone steel." Qin Yin was very certain as he said, "This is equivalent to a Class 8 demonic beast. Its bones can be used to refine top-grade bone steel. Actually, rank 6 beast bones can be refined into high-grade bone steel. We just killed more than 50 beasts. In addition to the ones we killed these past few days, there are almost 90 of them. They're all Class 6 beasts, so we should be able to get first place." Mu Rongjun sighed bitterly. "I just don't know how to take them away, especially this black flood dragon. Melt the black flood dragon's bones and peel off the scales. We still have 7 or 8 days." Qin Yun said with a smile, "I could take advantage of this time to forge a few storage spirit artifacts." Xiao Wufeng and company were immediately stunned. Qin Yun could actually forge a storage spirit artifact, and a few of them at that. This was something that only a Grandmaster inscription could do. Just as they were feeling astonished, the jade-armored rhinoceros suddenly entered the cave. Qin Yun looked around and said, "Old Hua, I'll have to trouble you to clean up the outside. Let's go in and take a look." Maybe this was the old cow's territory, but it was taken over later on. The jade-armored rhinoceros might have relied on something to grow up. Qin Yun and company followed the jade-armored rhinoceros into the cave. When they reached the end, they found a pool of water that shone with a sparkling white light. "It's the spirit spring," Xiao Wufeng said in surprise. No wonder the spiritual energy suddenly became so dense after entering. However, judging from the light of the spirit spring, the quality has dropped a lot, and it might even dry up. After the jade-armored rhinoceros got the spring water from the spirit spring, the wounds on its body quickly healed. "It's better to have a spirit spring here. It's convenient for me to forge artifacts." Qin Yin took out a furnace. When forging spirit iron, if the spirit liquid added was good enough, the quality would also increase by quite a bit. The spirit spring here was a natural spirit spring and was very suitable for forging materials. Qin Yin did not have that much high-grade spirit iron on hand, so he was temporarily unable to forge high-grade bone steel. However, he could first smelt the beast bones and then forge bone steel when he had the conditions in the future. With the combined efforts of the 4 of them, they quickly removed all the bones, scales, and tendons of the black flood dragon. In order to make it easier to carry, the bones were smelted into a large piece. Now, I'm going to start forging a storage spirit artifact. During this period of time, there might be evil beasts coming over. I'll have to trouble you guys. Qin Yin took out the forging platform and said to Xiao Wufeng. Xiao Wufeng and company were watching from the door. If Qin Yin could really forge a storage spirit artifact, they could buy one. Even many rich people couldn't buy a storage spirit artifact, even if they wanted to. When the Blue Spirit Star Palace landed, Qin Yun and Yang Shi picked up 2 void spirit stones. They were necessary materials to forge a spatial storage spirit artifact, so he believed that he could forge a spirit artifact. Just use the best low-grade bone steel to refine it. Fuse it with the void spirit stone, and then carve the blood pact spirit inscription and space spirit inscription. Then, you can refine a storage spirit artifact. Qin Yin cut out a very small piece of void spirit stone, only the size of a grain of rice. He smelted the void spirit stone the size of a grain of rice with the low-grade bone steel. After many rounds of forging, the composition of the void spirit stone was completely dispersed into the bone steel. Then he began to shape it. "Let's make a bracelet first." Qin Yin thought for a moment and began to forge a bracelet. He smoothed the surface and began to inscribe spirit inscriptions. Blood pact spirit inscriptions were mainly used to bind it with blood. After binding it, No one else would be able to open it to check the storage space. It's not easy. Qin Yun looked at the small bracelet and began to carve the contract's spirit inscription. The smaller the storage spirit artifact, the more expensive it was. Most of the storage spirit artifacts were small boxes or storage bags made of bee skin. The better ones were belts. Even if it was the clothes worn on the body, as long as they could inscribe inscriptions and fully integrate the void spirit stone, they could refine a storage spirit artifact. For example, Qin Yun, who had refined the best low-grade bone steel, it was an excellent storage spirit artifact. Furthermore, it was so small and exquisite. If it was sold, it would fetch an extremely high price. Senior Meng has reserved a storage spirit artifact. This storage bracelet is prepared for her. Qin Yun carefully inscribed the spirit inscriptions, not noticing the passage of time. 2 days later, he finally finished forging a storage bracelet. Let's see if we can drip some blood. After binding it with his blood, he could not help but jump when he saw the space inside. Although it wasn't as big as his 9-yang divine spirit storage space, it could still fit 40 to 50 evil beasts. Chapter 112. Inner Yuan soared beside the jade, armored rhinoceros spirit spring. It seemed to be sleeping. From time to time, Qin Yun would fetch water, but he did not wake it up. The storage bracelet he forged this time was more than 2 hours faster than before. It's too difficult to carve on small things. I have to be careful, and it will be much slower. The second storage bracelet that Qin Yun forged was prepared for Qi Meiyan, his little sister. Next, he began to forge storage spirit artifacts for Xia Wufeng and the other two. During this period of time, Qin Yun and the three of them had experienced a few battles. They had a sense of trust in each other and were friends worth befriending. He had gone out to ask Huizhong and the other two. They all wanted a storage belt because they felt that a storage belt was already of a very high grade. Of course, to them, having a simple storage bag was already not bad. The belt was much larger than the bracelet, so Qin Yun was able to refine it easily and quickly. It only took him a few days to complete. Brothers, drip some blood on it and see. Qin Yun handed over the black belt with a grin. The belt was forged from spirit iron. After special treatment, it could become extremely flexible and not easily damaged. Xia Wufeng did not take it. Instead, he asked, "How many crystal coins is this?" Qin Yun said with a smile, "Why are you being so polite with me? In the future, I will still need you to take care of me in the 3 Mysterious Academy." Huizhong frowned and said, "How can you not want crystal coins? A storage spirit artifact in the shape of a belt is precious. I only have 500,000 crystal coins on me. I'll give it all to you. In the future, when I earn more crystal coins, I'll make it up to you." Not to mention the honest Huizhong. Even a fellow like Murong Darren did not dare to accept it. He gave Qin Yun 500,000 crystal coins. Xia Wufeng had more crystal coins. He had 800,000. After taking the belt and dripping blood, he sighed and said, "Brother Yun, your artifact forging skills are truly brilliant. Oh right, after we return, the Xian points will be yours to use. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have such a bountiful harvest." Huizhong and Murong Darren also smiled and nodded. They were overjoyed to finally have their own storage spirit artifact. Especially Huizhong. He put his long rod in, then took it out and put it in again. "I can finally bring this precious rod with me." Huizhong laughed. Xia Wufeng also smiled, and then began to collect the corpses of the evil beasts that could not be stored. "Brother Yun, when I earn enough crystal coins, I'll look for you to customize a spirit artifact." Mu Rongjun giggled and said, "You brat, you're not even an adult, yet you're actually able to refine a storage spirit artifact. With this kind of ability, marrying Tu Xiao Yuelon wouldn't be a problem." If you were to go to the Star Xianwu Academy, those talented little beauties inside would be easily captured. Xia Wufeng looked calm on the surface, but he was so shocked in his heart that it was hard for him to calm down. Because Qin Yun's talent in refining is too astonishing. He can rival many old inscription masters. One must know that many people in the Tao of inscription and artifact refining are unable to reach Qin Yun's current achievements even after spending their entire lives. Qin Yun asked, Boss Xie, don't you have any weapons? I feel that your inner strength aura carries a very strong sword chi. Do you want me to take some time to refine a sword for you? Xie Wufeng shook his head with a smile and said, I am obsessed with the way of the sword. After cultivating a sword technique to perfection, I condensed a sword martial spirit and fused my inner yuan with my martial spirit, turning it into my origin sword. Unless I have no other choice, I won't release this sword. Inner yuan condensed into a sword, an origin weapon. This caused Qin Yun to be astonished when he heard this. He said, the path of martial arts is truly filled with all sorts of strange and all-encompassing phenomena. Suddenly, a soft mooing sound came from the depths of the cave. The jade-armored rhinoceros, which had been sleeping for a few days, finally moved. Xie Wufeng said, the spirit spring is about to dry up and the last bit of energy will be absorbed by the jade-armored rhinoceros. Let's go. Its injuries have completely recovered, so there's no need to worry about it. Qin Yun nodded. Just as he was about to leave, the wind suddenly blew around him. The commotion was extremely loud. His expression changed as he said anxiously, it's a horde of evil beasts. Another horde of evil beasts had arrived. Isn't the Black Flood Dragon the leader of the evil beasts? There are actually other groups of evil beasts. Just how many of these beasts are there in the Cloud Dragon mountain range? Murong Darren stood at the entrance of the cave, ready for battle. Xie Wufeng, on the other hand, was calm. He looked at the forest in front of him and said, as long as there's no leader like the Black Flood Dragon, we don't have to worry. With the strength of the four of us, we can deal with over 100 evil beasts. Huizhong was the first to rush out. Qin Yun followed behind him while Xie Wufeng floated above him. Murong Darren guarded the entrance of the cave. While cooperating with Qin Yun and company, he could also prevent the evil beasts from entering the cave and disturbing the rhinoceros. Huizhong, who was charging at the front, was the first to be attacked by the evil beast. It was a toad the size of a cow. Its entire body was pitch black, and there were many lumps on its back. Old Hua, the toad, is poisonous. When Xie Wufeng saw this, he waved his hand and sent out a stream of inner strength. Like a sudden storm, it blew away the toad that was spewing poisonous gas at the same time as it broke the tree. Don't get close to the poisonous beasts. Leave it to me. Murong Darren shouted from afar. The fan in his hand flew out like a spinning blade. It was wrapped in a layer of sharp energy as it sliced the toad in half. "Awoo! Awoo!" Wolf howls rang out as countless red-eyed giant wolves leapt out. Most of these beasts were giant wolves. Qin Yun held a hammer in one hand and a saber in the other. He executed the 6th-style Wind Slayer and the 6th-style Forging Dragon at the same time. The few black wolves that pounced at him were killed by the explosive force. It's just a rank 5 beast. They actually know how to send the poisoned toad to take the lead, thinking that we will be poisoned. Qin Yun said with a sneer. With a stomp of his feet, he leaped towards a few wolves that were about to come over. Using both his saber and hammer, he slashed through the wind and thunder. Before the wolves could even get close, they were killed. The pack of wolves was only large in number, but their strength was much weaker than the Class 6 beasts. Huizhong and Qin Yun killed more than half of them in an instant. The rest were injured by Xie Wufeng and Murong Darren, waiting for Qin Yun and Huizhong to finish them off. I'm here to give you Xian points. As Huizhong chuckled, he used his long rod to stab the howling wolf to death. The Wolf King did not appear. It might have been scared away by us. Murong Darren said with a smile. Just like that, they easily obtained the corpses of dozens of beasts. In total, there were more than 130 of them. Qin Yun frowned as he looked at the smelly forest. Suddenly, he said, "It seems like there are still evil beasts." "No, it's not evil beasts. It's people. A lot of people." Suddenly, a lot of people appeared. They were most likely students of the 3 Mysterious Academy who had come to train. It must be the students of the 3 Mysterious Academy. They are more terrifying than the beasts. Xie Wufeng said coldly as he stood at the entrance of the cave. His eyes were filled with a cold glint. Qin Yun and company were guarding the entrance of the cave. There was a jade-armored rhinoceros inside. If they left, the jade-armored rhinoceros would most likely be killed. More than 40 students flew out from all directions of the forest. When they saw the mess, many trees were broken and the ground was covered in the blood of evil beasts. They knew that many evil beasts had been killed here. These were two squads of people. A square-faced man dressed in blue walked out with a cold expression. Chapter 1:13. The two captains. Yusan was a captain. He was powerful and had a high prestige. Seeing his arrogant and murderous look, Huazhong gripped his long rod tightly, ready to fight at any moment. Xia Wufeng's voice was light and carried a trace of coldness as he said, "The wolves have all been killed by us. We're being surrounded by wolves. If we don't kill them, are we going to let them kill us? Do you have any complaints about this?" Yusan pulled out a saber and shook it, releasing a threatening aura. He sneered and said, "We discovered the pack of wolves. There are dozens of them. As long as you hand them over, we won't make things difficult for you. What if we don't give it to you?" Xia Wufeng had a smile that was not a smile. Although he did not have a weapon in his hand, his body exuded a chilling sword aura. His voice was also as cold as a sharp sword. Yusan secretly frowned. They had 40 people on their side, so fighting against 4 people was definitely not a problem. However, they would also have to face casualties. Everyone knew how terrifying the strength of this older student, Xia Wufeng, was. "If you don't give it to me, don't even think about returning to the Three Mysterious Academy. You will be buried here forever," a black-clothed youth holding a long whip said with a sharp and gloomy voice. He was the captain of another team. His name was Lieutenant D. To be able to become the captain, his strength was naturally not weak. "Even if we die, we will drag your 2 captains down with us," Huazhong said angrily as he stabbed his rod into the ground, creating a large crater. Qin Yun thought for a moment and said with a smile, "We're all humans, so let's be more civilized. How about this? We'll send people out to compete. If we lose, not only will we give you the corpses of dozens of wolves, we'll also give you the corpses of 50 other beasts. How about it? You have another 50 beasts?" Yusan was slightly alarmed as he asked in disbelief. The other students did not believe it either. This was because their 2 teams, with dozens of people, had only killed a total of 50 beasts. "You don't believe me? Then look around. Is there really only the blood of wolves?" Mu Rongjun sneered. "This place was previously a den of evil beasts. We just took it down." If it was a one-on-one battle, Xia Wufeng and Qin Yun were confident of winning. "Qin Yun, since you suggested it, why don't you do it?" Yusan also felt that it was very worthwhile. He said, "If I lose, I won't pursue the matter of the dozens of wolf corpses. If I win, I'll do as you said just now." Qin Yun nodded with a calm expression and said with a smile, "All right." Everyone knew that with Qin Yun's martial spirit dead, his strength would definitely be greatly reduced. This was also the reason why Yusan chose to compete with Qin Yun. Captain Yusan is one of the top 10 existences in the Three Mysterious Academy. It's more than enough to beat up a newcomer who has just entered the Three Mysterious Academy. Qin Yun is most proud of the purple gold fire martial spirit, but it's already finished. He's still so confident. Captain Yusan has a 5 spiritual pulse and a gold martial spirit. Just based on his spiritual pulse talent alone, he could be ranked in the top 3 of the Three Mysterious Academy. The students of that team were all discussing proudly. Qin Yun turned a deaf ear to him and looked indifferently at the beautiful saber in Yusan's hand. He asked, "You want to compete with weapons?" "Of course I have to use a weapon. I'll throw this rock and we'll begin when it lands." After Yusan finished speaking, he threw the rock in his hand. Qin Yun and Yusan were more than 20 meters apart. The surroundings were spacious enough for them to fight. After the stone landed on the ground, Yusan brandished his saber and attacked fiercely. The energy that overflowed from the saber was like fire. It was extremely frightening. When Qin Yun saw the saber, he determined that it was a half-spirit artifact. As for the forging hammer in his hand, it was a genuine low-grade spirit artifact, and it was one of the stronger ones. He struck out a few times in the air with his hammer. The force that shot out lifted up layers of thick soil and enveloped Senator. A large amount of soil covered the area like a black curtain. Yusen's seemingly beautiful attack was instantly broken by the soil. He could only brandish his saber in a sorry state to scatter the thick soil that was smashing towards him. Just as Yusun scattered the soil, he saw Qin Yun jump over. This caused the two teams to be dumbfounded. That was because Qin Yun's speed was unbelievably fast. After Qin Yun went over, the hammer struck down with great force. Yusen's body naturally reacted, and he blocked with his saber. When the sledgehammer landed on the saber, a loud boom rang out. Yusen's saber was broken, and his body was struck by the force of the broken saber. His internal organs were severely injured, and he could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. With just this bit of strength, you want to be the captain? Qin Yun said with a sneer. He kicked Yusun back and was hurriedly supported by a few youths. Yusun clutched his cracked chest. He could not accept this fact. He was a few years older than Qin Yun, and he had been beaten to the point of vomiting blood. He had actually suffered a crushing defeat. The other students, if Qin Yun's martial spirit did not die, they might be able to accept it. This was because everyone thought that the purple gold fire martial spirit was the key to Qin Yun's strength. However, the current Qin Yun did not regress because of the death of his martial spirit. It was very different from the rumors. "You can scram now," Murong Darren shouted. "Wait." Lieutenant D suddenly walked out and said, "Yusun is only representing his team. He is not qualified to represent us. If I win, the corpses of the wolves and the 50 beasts that you have killed will all belong to my team. How about it?" Xiao Wufeng was very confident in his partner's strength. He smiled and said, "Sure. Which of us do you want to compete with?" Lieutenant D pointed at Qin Yun and said, "Qin Yun, I want to compete with you. I can't use weapons. Your hammer is the giant king spirit hammer. Although it is only a low-grade spirit artifact, it is comparable to a mid-grade spirit artifact." It was a hammer that was comparable to a mid-grade spirit artifact. No wonder it was able to severely injure Yusun with a single strike. When everyone learned of this, they felt much better. After all, Qin Yun was a 15-year-old youth. He only had one spirit vein, and his martial spirit was dead. Yet, he was so much stronger than them. This was truly hard to accept. Lieutenant D picked up a stone and threw it into the air. The moment the stone landed on the ground, the two of them flew out like arrows released from a bow. Just as the two of them were about to collide, Qin Yun pushed out with his palm. Everyone thought that he was going to use his inner strength, but they did not think much of it. This was because under such a charged attack, the condensed inner strength would not be very strong, and the other party would definitely be able to withstand it. However, when Qin Yun pushed out with his palm, what he struck out was not inner strength, but a violent bolt of lightning. The lightning was fast and ferocious. It was like a ferocious snake's bite, instantly striking Lieutenant D, who was caught off guard. Boom! After the bolt of lightning hit him, it actually exploded, charring one of Lieutenant D's arms and causing it to emit smoke. Lieutenant D was sent flying dozens of meters away. He fell to the ground with a face full of shock. His heart was filled with fear. If that move had hit his head, he would have died without a doubt. Everyone looked at Lieutenant D in disbelief. The powerful Lieutenant D was actually defeated by Qin Yun, who did not have a martial soul. Chapter 114. The strongest team. Qin Yun explained indifferently. That is a Xian-level martial art, Qi explosion technique. When it reaches the great perfection stage, it can explode into lightning. My elemental energy is still here, as well as pure and non-elemental inner force. It can also allow me to use martial skills. Xiao Wufeng walked in front of Qin Yun and said to the students, "All of you have lost. Hurry up and scram." Lieutenant D had lost even more thoroughly. He had been defeated in a single exchange, causing him to lose all face. On the other side, Yusun secretly felt much better. If Lieutenant D were to defeat Qin Yun, he would be mocked by Lieutenant D in the future. With the two strongest captains defeated, the others were also disheartened. No one among them could defeat Qin Yun. The gap between them was too great. In the other teams, there were such powerful 6th-level martial body cultivators. If they met Qin Yun, they might be able to win. Everyone, let's attack together. Capture them and force them to hand over the corpse of the evil beast. Yusun suddenly shouted, "Right, we have 40 people. We will definitely win." Lieutenant D also shouted, "If we let them leave this place, we will become the laughingstock of the other teams in the Three Mysterious Academy in the future." Hearing the words of the two captains, the few people who were usually afraid of flattery also began to shout and incite the others. They also responded to the captain's orders and were the first to fly out. "Go! Charge!" The group of people also shouted loudly to boost their courage and charge forward. Qin Yun was not afraid of this group of people and was the first to charge forward. When he saw Yusun inciting the other students, he began to gather his strength. After flying out, the sledgehammer smashed down, causing thunder to shake the heavens. The energy rippled out like a ripple. The few students who were protecting Lieutenant D were all sent flying by this surging wave of energy. "I told you to leave, but you didn't cherish the opportunity. It's too late to regret it now." Qin Yun slapped Lieutenant D a few times and snatched a storage box from his arms. Lieutenant D was slapped in the face by Qin Yun in front of everyone. His heart was filled with humiliation and anger, but he was powerless to retaliate. He was injured by the Qi explosion technique, and it would be difficult for him to recover in a short period of time. Huizhong also rushed over. His long rod swept around like a broom, and those students were all sent flying by his rod. Xia Wufeng and Murong Darren attacked from afar with their inner strength. It was also very easy for them to deal with 6th-level martial body students. Qin Yun charged towards Yusun on the other side. When Xia Wufeng and Murong Darren saw this, they immediately attacked the students in that direction to cover Qin Yun. In just a dozen strides, Qin Yun arrived in front of you, Senior. He said with a sneer, "You want to snatch us? You guys also need to have that kind of strength. Don't worry, your dog life isn't worthy of me killing you." With that, he snatched the storage bag from Yusen's arms and gave him a few hard slaps. There were still more than 10 students who were not injured, but they did not dare to move forward. "Qin Yun, the storage spirit artifacts that you stole are all teachers. Quickly return them." Yusun endured the incomparable humiliation and roared angrily. "You don't have the ability, yet you still dare to rob others. You asked for it. If you say any more nonsense, I'll silence you." Murong Darren's words were very effective, causing the students to tremble in fear. They were clearly at the 6th level of the martial body realm, so why was the difference between them so great? The 40 of them were actually unable to defeat the 4 of them. When they thought of this, they could not help but feel fear. "Scram!" Huizhong roared angrily. His thunderous voice scared the students to the point that their faces turned pale. In just a moment, these students were all fleeing in a sorry state. All of them were extremely afraid of death and did not support each other. They all ran as fast as they could. "Boss Xia, we won't be blamed when we return to the Three Mysterious Academy, right?" Qin Yun asked. He was still a little worried. "Don't worry, leave it to me," Xia Wufeng said with a smile. "Qin Yun, you are really strong. If your martial spirit was normal, I might not even be your match. It's about time. Let's quickly seal the cave and return to the Three Mysterious Academy," Murong Darren said. The 4 of them worked together and spent half a day moving many large rocks to seal the entrance of the cave. "If the old cow wakes up, she can run out herself," Huizhong said with a smile. "I'm really grateful to this guy. Otherwise, our harvest would not have been so bountiful." Qin Yun had snatched 2 storage spirit artifacts. As they did not have blood contract spirit marks, as long as he obtained them, he could easily obtain the items inside. When he saw the evil beasts inside, he grinned. These guys aren't bad either. 2 storage spirit artifacts, a total of more than 50 evil beast corpses. We have a total of more than 180 beasts. This time, first place should be ours. Mu Rongjun said with a smile. That's right. Release the evil beasts they killed and let us deal with them. This way, we won't be able to see what martial skill killed the evil beasts. The competition to hunt and kill evil beasts in the Three Mysterious Academy had finally ended. Qin Yun and his team of 4 were the first to cross the mountain and enter the forest. Now, they were the last to return to the Three Mysterious Academy. When they returned to the valley, they saw a large group of injured students lying in the middle of the plaza. The teachers were helping to treat them. Out of so many teams, only Qin Yun and company were uninjured. Amongst them, the 2 teams led by Yu Sun and Lieutenant D were the most seriously injured. Any results? Xiao Wufeng asked Dean Bai when he returned. Did you steal Yu Sun and Lieutenant D's storage spirit artifacts? A teacher said coldly. He was the teacher of Yu Sen's team from Blue Spirit Star Palace. How was that possible? Xiao Wufeng said with a frown. How can the 4 of us be a match for dozens of them? Qin Yun was secretly alarmed. He never expected Xiao Wufeng to deny it. Yu Sun and Lieutenant D's 2 teachers immediately looked at each other. The other teachers also found it strange because the student from the 2 teams had clearly explained the process. Dean Bai, please make a decision. The storage spirit artifact is extremely precious. It must have been stolen by them. A teacher looked at the dean and said, Xiao Wufeng, did you really not make a move? Dean Bai asked as he walked past. No, Xiao Wufeng shook his head very calmly. To tell you the truth, we killed a few groups of evil beasts this time and killed a total of 185 of them. We will take out the corpses of the evil beasts now. More than 180? Dean Bai was also shocked. The other teachers and students shouted, Impossible! Didn't Qin Yun's storage spirit artifact only contain 50 or so beasts? A teacher asked doubtfully. It's like this. Qin Yun has several storage spirit artifacts of his own. In order for the team to win, he gave one to each of us. As Xiao Wufeng spoke, he pointed to his belt and took out the corpses of more than 40 evil beasts. In order to store more, the corpses of the evil beasts were squeezed together. However, after taking it out, one could still tell. Murong Darren and Huozhong also took out the corpses of the evil beasts from the beautiful metal storage belt. There were also more than 40 of them. Qin Yun also took out the corpses of more than 50 beasts. Chapter 115. Vajradu, the most shocking thing was not the corpses of the evil beasts, but the storage spirit artifacts with large capacities. This was all Qin Yun's. What did this mean? Qin Yun could forge a storage spirit artifact? When they thought of this, many students looked at Qin Yun with reverence. This was a Grandmaster inscription. Xiao Wufeng said, As everyone can see, we all have storage spirit artifacts, so it's impossible for us to rob them. Maybe they lost their storage spirit artifact and happened to quarrel with us, so they framed us. Yu Sun and Lieutenant D were both stunned. The student from the 2 teams were also speechless. They did not know what to say. Dean Bai nodded and said, First place is yours. 185 evil beast corpses, 1,000 Xian points for a total of 185,000 Xian points. If you get first place, you will receive a reward of 100,000 Xian points. You can go to that small hut to exchange for items with Elder Su at any time. In an instant, they had obtained nearly 300,000 Xian points. Everyone else was extremely jealous because they only had that little bit. It was useless. Dean, what about our storage spirit artifacts? A teacher asked with a look of despair on his face. Storage spirit artifacts were not too expensive. Powerful martial artists could afford the price. It was just that they were too rare and not easy to buy. Go find the 2 of them. Dean Bai looked at Yu Sun and Lieutenant D. These 2 captains could only suffer in silence. They could not voice out their bitterness because no one believed their words. Let's go and see what we can exchange for. Mu Rongjun said with a smile before running towards the hut. After Qin Yun and company left, a teacher said in a low voice, Qin Yun's martial spirit is already dead. With his strength, he is unable to defeat Yu Sun and Lieutenant D. It seems like he still has a lot of things in his hands. Didn't he give the storage spirit artifact to Xiao Wufeng and the other two so that they could help him? Qin Yun's storage spirit artifact should have been forged before, right? He had once obtained a void spirit stone, which was enough for him to forge quite a few storage spirit artifacts. It's a pity that his martial spirit is gone. Many people secretly felt that it was a pity. If they could have a good relationship with Qin Yun, they might be able to buy a good storage spirit artifact. Qin Yun and company entered a small wooden hut and saw Elder Su. He was a scholarly old man dressed in white. He was lying on a couch, leisurely reading a book. What do you want to exchange? It's all in the booklet. Take a look for yourself. Elder Su took out a booklet and threw it over. After Mu Rongjun received it, he quickly flipped through it. A low-grade spirit weapon costs 500,000 Xian points. Mu Rongjun frowned and said, "It's really F***king expensive. Right now, we don't lack cultivation techniques. As for spirit artifacts, we don't have any use for them at the moment." Xiao Wufeng said, "Brother Yun has just stepped into the 6th level martial body realm. He needs to catch up quickly and see if there are any good pills." When they saw the pills, Yun and company cursed a few times. The cheapest pill required 1,000,000 Xian points. It was unknown how long it would take to gather them. The best pills were even more expensive, costing several million Xian points. The most speechless thing was that there were royal-grade spirit pills worth tens of millions of Xian points, but they could not be exchanged at all. The Vajra is not bad, 50,000 per bottle. What is it used for? Asked Qin Yun. Elder Su curled his lips and said with a smile, "You can refine the heart of Vajra, but the process is very unpleasant. If you're not careful, you might even lose your life." "Heart of diamond?" Qin Yun muttered with wrinkles. Elder Su said softly, "The 6th level of the martial body mainly cultivates inner strength. You can condense inner strength now, but it is not the strongest inner strength. The strongest inner strength is the Vajra inner strength, which is also the peak power of the 6th level martial body. After you have refined the heart of the Vajra, you have to refine the 3 great scriptures of the Vajra, and then refine the Vajra inner yuan before you can condense the Vajra inner strength. In the end, the Vajra inner strength will naturally be completed. This is the most difficult stage of the 6th level martial body." Xiao Wufeng nodded and said, "I have already refined the Vajra inner yuan. Second brother Murong and third brother Hua have only just refined the 3 great Vajra scriptures." Previously, Qin Yun had eaten the mystic heart grass and cultivated the mystic yellow heart sutra. His heart was also the heart of mystic yellow. If he were to undergo the Vajra tempering, he would be able to turn it into the Vajra mystic yellow. His inner strength would definitely be stronger. You have to think it through. This is a matter of risking your life. Of course, the 3 Mysterious Academy will definitely not interfere. Elder Su reminded. 5 bottles. Xiao Wufeng did not consider and said, "With Brother Yun's strength, you will definitely be able to endure it. This is the fastest and most stable way to cultivate the Vajra heart." Qin Yun nodded and said, "I can take it." Xiao Wufeng knew that Qin Yun would be attending Qin Zhengfeng and Xiao Yuelan's engagement in half a year. Therefore, Qin Yun had to steadily raise his cultivation during this period of time. After exchanging for 5 bottles of Vajra dew, they hurriedly returned to the stone hut. "Brother Yun, get a big metal bucket, fill it with water, and pour in a bottle of Vajra dew. Normally, you will need 10 bottles to refine the Vajra heart. You must remember to gather the energy that has seeped into your body and your heart." Xiao Wufeng was afraid of Qin Yun's arm and said with a smile, "I did the same thing back then. You will definitely be able to successfully endure it." Qin Yun was very confident in himself as he entered the room with the Vajra dew. He followed Xiao Wufeng's instructions and soaked himself in a large metal bucket before pouring a bottle of Vajra dew into it. At first, it was nothing, but gradually, he felt a sharp pain in his body. It really is unbearable. Qin Yun's body could not help but tremble. The pain felt like his skin was being torn apart, and his muscles felt like they were being pierced by thousands of needles. At the same time as the pain was excruciating, he could sense 9 different types of energy slowly seeping into his body. It hurts. 9 different kinds of pain. Could it be that I can absorb the 9 suns, spiritual energy, and sense the 9 types of energy of the Vajradhu? The pain I endure is also 9 types of pain. Qin Yun gritted his teeth and growled in pain. He had never felt such pain before. After all, these were 9 types of pain. However, from the very beginning, he had the thought of giving up. However, when he thought of his grand goal and the humiliation he received when he was young, he let out a loud roar and continued to endure. Hearing Qin Yun's painful roar, Mu Rongjun was somewhat worried. "Boss Xie, is this all right? Brother Yin seems to be in great pain." Chapter 116. Iron Monist Qin Yun endured the pain. He guided the 9 energies that had seeped into his body and gathered them in his heart. He persisted for an entire day before the pain gradually subsided. Only when there was no more pain did he come out of the metal barrel. Right now, he was incomparably afraid of the 9 kinds of pain. However, driven by many beliefs, he mustered up his courage and continued on to the next round. There's still 4 more times. I'll clench my teeth and pass. Qin Yun changed to clean water and poured in another bottle of Vajra to continue tempering the Vajra heart. For the next few days, he used the Vajra dew to temper the Vajra heart. In the first 2 days, he was screaming like a pig being slaughtered. But in the next 3 days, his voice turned into a low growl. After Qin Yun finished using the 5 bottles of Vajra dew, he discovered that his heart was as strong as diamond. He did not know if he had successfully tempered the Vajra heart. After he walked out of the room, Xia Wufeng and the other 2 immediately came over. "I've finally endured it." Xia Wufeng patted Qin Yun's arm and said with a smile. Qin Yun giggled and asked, "Boss Xia, help me take a look. Did I refine the Vajra heart?" Xia Wufeng used 2 fingers to point at the spot where Qin Yun's heart was beating. After a careful inspection, his face revealed a look of shock. "This is impossible. Normally, you would need 10 bottles of Vajradhu. Now, you only need 5 bottles to refine it." Mu Rongjun was slightly startled and shouted, "This is too strange. Brother Yin, what kind of evil technique did you use? Saving 5 bottles of Vajradhu is not worth mentioning. The greatest benefit is to suffer 5 times less pain." Huizhong nodded. When he mentioned the pain of the Vajradhu, he also revealed a look of fear. What they did not know was that Qin Yun had endured 9 types of pain. Even though it was only 5 times, it was much more painful than 10 times for others. What is the Vajradhu made from? It actually has such a miraculous effect. Qin Yun looked at the empty bottles and was extremely curious. He said, "I wonder if there are any other effects other than cultivating the Vajra heart. You still want to use it?" Mu Rongjun looked at Qin Yun as if he was looking at a monster. He had experienced the pain brought by the Vajradhu before. It could be said to be extremely painful, but Qin Yun was not afraid because of it. "No, I'm just asking," said Qin Yun with a chuckle. Xia Wufeng said, "It is said that the Vajradhu is naturally formed. The 3 black-level martial academies have obtained quite a few, but they can only allow martial artists to cultivate the Vajra heart." Seeing how certain he was, it was obvious that he had tried. Qin Yun suddenly remembered that the 2 storage spirit artifacts were still in his hands. He asked, "Those 2 teachers didn't come looking for trouble with you, right?" Xia Wufeng said with a smile, "He came twice and was sent away by me. The students taught by these 2 teachers aren't very good, so their conduct isn't good. We must be wary of them in the future." Although those teachers were only at the 7th or 8th level of the martial body realm, they were all quite capable. They could all obtain a storage spirit artifact, but they would need to spend a lot of savings. "Qin Yun, there shouldn't be anything else for the next few days. You should familiarize yourself with the Vajra heart first. Next, you have to use the Vajra heart to turn the 3 great scriptures and all the meridians in your body into Vajra. Only when the meridians are turned into Vajra can you withstand the Vajra inner force. Xiao Wufeng said. This will also take a long time. Qin Yan nodded and returned to his room to cultivate. Although there were no teachers here to guide him, Xiao Wufeng was very experienced in cultivation and could guide him in his cultivation. In his room, Qin Yan closed his eyes and used his mental force to envelop his elemental energy, heart, and 3 great meridians. He felt that there was a close connection between the 3 and they could strengthen each other. 2 days later, Murong Darren suddenly knocked on his door and shouted softly, "Brother Yun, is it convenient for you to come out now?" After Qin Yan opened the door, he said, "Of course it's convenient. What's the matter? Follow me and you'll know." Murong Darren led Qin Yan out of the stone house and towards the east side of the valley. On the east side of the valley, 10 caves were carved out, divided into caves 1 to 10. Qin Yan saw students lining up at the entrance of the cave. All of them had faces full of anticipation. He asked curiously, "The cave was just dug out, right? What's inside?" Murong Jun said with an evil smile, "There's a great beauty in every cave. As long as you can defeat the beauty, you can have sex with her." When Qin Yan heard this, he frowned and said, "Isn't the 3 Mysterious Academy too reckless? They can even do such a thing?" Murong Jun laughed out loud. "You really believe it? If it's true, then I'll definitely go there every day." Qin Yan looked at him with disdain and scolded jokingly, "You look pretty good too. You're almost more handsome than me. It's definitely not a problem for you to find a woman. Is there need to be so thirsty?" Murong Jun gave a carefree smile and said smugly, "A woman that's too easy to obtain isn't interesting at all? You don't understand my loneliness." Qin Yan curled his lips and asked, "What's in the cave? Why is everyone so happy? Did OL3 also enter the cave?" Xiao Wufeng stood in front of the entrance of cave number 10, dressed in a neat black outfit, looking energetic and heroic. His whole body exuded a strong sword aura, and his fighting spirit could be felt from afar. Murong Jun said, "The Blue Spirit Star Palace has sent more than 10 Iron Men. It said that they are puppets refined from high-grade spirit iron. Their strength was equivalent to the 7th level martial body realm. They were refined by a very skilled inscription master and had very strong combat strength. It is said that even a martial artist at the 7th level martial body realm would find it difficult to defeat these Iron Men." When Qin Yan heard this, his heart was immediately filled with interest. He had read about it in the books. Some inscription masters could refine puppets and inject their battle consciousness and spirit into them. They could control the puppets or let the puppets fight on their own. Rumor had it that the most powerful thing about puppets was that they could release inner strength. This was what Qin Yan had learned from the books. He had also asked Duan Qian why he could produce inner strength. Duan Qian only said that puppets also had elemental energy in their bodies. If they wanted to refine them, they would need a few people to cooperate, and it would take a long time to refine them. Murong Jun noticed the fanaticism in Qin Yan's eyes and said, "If I were to compete with an Iron Man, I would be able to obtain 100,000 Xian points if I could last for 2 hours. If I couldn't, I would have nothing." Just as he finished speaking, a badly mutilated person crawled out of the 8th cave. His face was so badly mutilated that it was impossible to recognize who he was. "It hasn't been long, and this guy has been beaten to this state." Murong Jun frowned. "The strength of the Iron Men is truly terrifying. I wonder how OL3 is doing inside. Can I use weapons?" Qin Yan asked. "No." Murong Jun shook his head. Chapter 117. Light pattern equipment. The cave was dug very deep, and there was a large stone room inside. The stone room had been meticulously arranged. Not a single sound could be heard from inside, so it was impossible to know what was going on inside. People crawled out of the other caves one after another. Everyone was badly mutilated. This caused the people lining up outside the cave to feel a deep sense of fear. When the timid people saw the miserable state of these students, they all retreated and left the team, giving up on challenging the powerful Iron Man. Isn't the Iron Man too strong? Our strength is about the same as the injured people. They won't be able to hold on for long, so we definitely won't be able to hold on for long. Let's withdraw. If we get injured or something, we'll be crippled for the rest of our lives. The things from Blue Spirit Star Palace are really terrifying. Qin Yun and company are also over there. We can see how long they can last. If they're also crippled, it would be funny. Holding on for 2 hours was not as easy as everyone imagined. Of the first batch to enter, only Huazhong had yet to come out. Xiao Wufeng said, "Third brother Hua is very strong. We don't have to worry. If he really can't hold on, he would have come out long ago." Qin Yun looked at the other teams. Although they did not have any spirit artifacts, they were wearing steel armor that could increase their defense. He walked to Xiao Wufeng's side and asked in a low voice, "Boss Xia, can you wear refined armor?" Xiao Wufeng nodded and said, "You can wear armor. If it's not a good armor, it won't be of much use." Everyone wants to obtain Xian points because they want to exchange for gold vein spirit pills and gold origin spirit pills. One pill costs 3 million Xian points. The gold vein spirit pill can refine the 3 great scriptures, and the gold origin spirit pill can refine the Vajra inner yuan. These are both very expensive top-grade spirit pills. Elder Su has 4 of each, and the number is limited. Everyone wants to get them as soon as possible. Next, Qin Yun needed to refine the 3 great scriptures and the Vajra inner yuan. He needed 2 pills. As for Huazhong and Murong Darren, they needed to refine their elemental energy. They needed a total of 4 pills. Murong Darren said, "Let's focus on getting 3 million Xian points and let Brother Yun refine the 3 great scriptures of the Vajra." Qin Yun was secretly grateful to them as he said in a low voice, "If I can wear armor, I can refine special clothes, such as clothes with light patterns that can quickly recover from injuries." When Xiao Wufeng and Murong Darren heard this, they were both surprised. Xiao Wufeng said in a low voice in surprise, "Okay, go and refine it now. Do you need help?" "There's no need. I could do it myself. Wait for third brother here." Qin Yun smiled and turned to run back. In a secret chamber, Qin Yun quickly refined all kinds of defensive equipment with light runes. Clothes, 2 wrist guards, 2 leg guards, and a belt. I'll engrave 2 sets of light runes on each of them. That way, I can recover multiple times. Qin Yun chuckled as he began inscribing. He also had a lot of specially treated bee skins. Yang Shiyu was the one who made the inscriptions to stimulate psionic energy and accumulate internal energy for him. Looking at the bee skins, Qin Yun suddenly thought of Yang Shiyu. He could only sigh inwardly. He was even more eager to become stronger and help her escape the shackles of fate as soon as possible. The wrist guards, leg guards, and belt were all forged with melted beast bones. These materials did not need to be too good. As long as they could accumulate enough inner force, they could activate light runes to heal their injuries. If it was carved on a good material, it would take even longer. The more spirit inscriptions he carved, the more proficient he would be. Now that Qin Yun had carved so many light runes, he had become extremely proficient. He could also carve very quickly. It only took him half a day to create a set of light inscription equipment for Huazhong. 2 days later, he created another 3 sets and hurriedly ran out of the room. He wanted to quickly hand over the light inscription equipment to Xiao Wufeng and company. When he came to the hall outside, he saw Huazhong lying on a chair. He was not in good spirits. His face was bruised and his eyes were bloodshot. One look was enough to tell that he was severely injured. When Huazhong saw Qin Yun arrive, he smiled. "Brother Yun, I've endured for 2 hours and obtained 100,000 Xian points." Qin Yun walked over and carefully examined the injuries on Huazhong's body. He said in surprise, "Third bro, are the iron men inside very difficult to deal with?" Even someone as thick as Huazhong was so heavily injured, let alone the others. Huazhong nodded and sighed. "It's really terrifying. There's no chance of winning at all. I don't even know how I managed to survive." Qin Yin took out the light inscription equipment he had forged for Huizhong and said with a smile, "Third bro, put on the equipment I forged for you and activate the light inscription. Your injuries will quickly recover." Light inscriptions were one of the rare spirit inscriptions, not to mention a high-grade spirit inscription. Huizhong also knew that Qin Yin was preparing to refine light inscriptions. He hurriedly put on a pair of wrist guards and followed Qin Yin's instructions. He activated the light inscriptions on them and released a pale white light. "I feel very comfortable," Huizhong said with a face full of surprise. Qin Yin smiled. "You'll recover very soon. I'll go find Boss Xie and the others." He hurriedly left the stone house and walked towards the east side of the valley. He saw that Murong Darren was here. There were quite a few injuries on his body, and he was still able to stand. This meant that his injuries were not too serious. Qin Yin remembered that the last time he came here, the other caves were filled with people. But now, there were only the two of them here. He looked at the other caves. There were many dried bloodstains, and the people who came out were all severely injured. "Boss Xie is out. It's just been 2 hours." Murong Darren looked at Xie Wufeng, who had walked out of the cave, and shouted happily. Qin Yin walked over and supported Xie Wufeng. "I'm fine. Let's go back first." Xie Wufeng didn't look injured on the surface, but his expression wasn't good. He must have suffered internal injuries. After returning, Qin Yin took out 2 sets of light inscription equipment and handed them to Xie Wufeng and Murong Darren. Huizhong, who had just put on the light inscription equipment, had almost recovered. "Boss Xie is amazing. He was able to come out standing 3 times. I was able to come out the first time, but the second time, I couldn't even hold on for 2 hours." After Murong Darren put on his equipment, he came out of the room and said with a smile, "I'm not afraid now. With equipment that can provide multiple healing, we can hold on for a long time." Xie Wufeng and Murong Darren quickly recovered from their injuries under the healing of the light inscriptions. He said with a smile, "I'll also go fight with the Iron Man and see how powerful he is." Xie Wufeng warned, "If you can't hold on any longer, then hurry up and come out. If you injure your foundation, it will be detrimental to your tempering of the 3 great meridians." "Got it. Wait for me here. I'll go alone." Qin Yin smiled and walked out of the stone house. He headed for cave number 10 alone. Inside the cave, there was a stone room that was more than 10 meters wide. It was surrounded by torches. In the middle of the room, there was a 2-meter-tall black Iron Man. It was illuminated by the torches and looked like a burly man wearing armor. In a corner of the stone room, there was a white-haired old man sitting on a chair. He was in charge of controlling the Iron Man. When the old man saw Qin Yin enter, he opened his eyes slightly. Then, he flipped an hourglass and began counting. Chapter 118. Large success. Although the Iron Man was aggressive, Qin Yin was extremely calm. The Iron Man's speed was not very fast, but he did not underestimate the Iron Man because of that. "Do I only need to hold on for 2 hours?" Qin Yin chose to dodge and quickly retreated to a corner of the stone room with the flaming cloud steps. Something unexpected happened. The Iron Man's huge iron head suddenly left its body and shot out like a ray of light with a very strong inner strength. Qin Yin immediately dodged. He thought that he would be able to dodge it easily, but he did not expect the iron head to turn and continue charging at him. What an evil thing! He cursed in his heart. He knew that dodging was useless, so he waved his palm and used the chi explosion technique to send the iron head flying. The iron head hit the wall and fell to the ground. Then it suddenly flew up from the ground and continued to fly out like before. Qin Yin finally witnessed the power of the Iron Man and knew why it was so difficult to deal with. The Iron Man was made of high-grade spirit iron, and its entire body was hard. With the inner strength of the 6th-level martial body realm, it was difficult to injure the Iron Man in the slightest with his bare hands. Just as he was about to attack the iron head that was flying at him, the headless Iron Man suddenly moved. One of its arms actually left its body and came over with a strong inner force. The scariest thing was that the Iron Man himself was flying over. Qin Yun brandished his fists and punched out twice. Using the Qi explosion technique, he sent the Iron Head and Iron Arm flying before quickly dodging the Iron Man that was charging at him. Boom! After the Iron Man charged over, he threw out a terrifying punch. The inner strength that surged out was like a violent gale. If one was hit, they could only crawl out. It is indeed very difficult to last for 2 hours. Qin Yun gritted his teeth. He was about to face a bitter battle. Although it was difficult to fight, he felt an inexplicable excitement in his heart. The Iron Man was very strong and could train his combat experience. This was also a type of cultivation. Iron Lump, come on. I'm not afraid of you. Qin Yun encouraged himself in his heart as he punched the Iron Head and Iron Arm that were flying at him once again. He happily circled around the Iron Man. After 6 hours, Qin Yun came out of the cave with a swollen face. As he had a large number of light inscription equipment, he could hold on for 6 hours. He also received a 300,000 Xian points bill. Xiao Wufeng and the other two had recovered from their injuries and were waiting outside the cave. When they saw Qin Yun walk out, they could not help but smile. I just want to ask the principal. We can also enter the other caves. They can't beat the Iron Man, so they can only go out and hunt evil beasts to earn Xian points. Mu Rongjun patted Qin Yun on the shoulder. I'm going in. After Hua Zhong finished speaking, he strode into the 8th cave. After that, Xiao Wufeng and Murong Darren also entered the other caves. Yin went back to rest and replenish the energy of the equipment. At this rate, it wouldn't take long for the 4 of them to gather 3 million points. A day later, the 4 of them were in the hall of the house, replenishing the energy of the light pattern equipment. With the help of light inscription equipment, they could hold on for 6 to 8 hours when competing with the Iron Man. Brother, and Yun has it. Brother Yun. This is all thanks to the light inscription equipment forged by Brother Yun. I finally understand why inscriptionists enjoy such a high status. Mu Rongjun sighed. Xiao Wufeng said, if all of you can cultivate the Vajra inner strength with our team's ability, it will be much easier to enter the Star Xianwu Academy. In about 3 months, the examination to enter the Xian Level Martial Arts Academy will begin. They all knew that Qin Yun was going to participate in the engagement. If he could break through his cultivation before that, he would have more confidence to participate. Qin Yun said with a smile, let's work hard together and become martial arts experts. They rested at night and went to the cave to challenge the Iron Man at dawn. It would be enough to hold on for 6 to 8 hours. In one day, the 4 of them would be able to get more than 1 million Xian points. A few days later, when the students who went out to hunt evil beasts returned, they quickly learned that Qin Yun and company had obtained 3 million points. They were all shocked. What shocked them even more was that Qin Yun and company could last for at least 6 hours after entering the cave. This was something they could not believe. The entrance to Dean Bai's house was filled with students and teachers. Principal Xiao Wufeng and the others used a large amount of light pattern equipment to compete with the Iron Man. That's why they were able to last so long. This is unfair. The one who spoke was a teacher from the Tianxian Martial School. After Dean Bai opened the door, he said with a cold face, what's unfair about it? You can use it too. This rule was originally set by you teachers. Now that you want to change it, how can it be? They also wanted to use it, but they couldn't. Although light pattern equipment wasn't as hard to buy as storage spirit artifacts, the price wasn't low either. Even the teachers couldn't afford it. Seeing Dean Bai's displeased expression, the students and teachers didn't dare to say anything and dispersed. As for the teacher of Blue Spirit Star Palace, he hurriedly sent someone to report this matter to Blue Spirit Star Palace. Otherwise, if Qin Yun and company continued, they would be able to obtain even more Xian points in exchange for a large amount of resources. Xiao Wufeng and company also learned of this matter. Seeing that Dean Bai did not change the rules, they felt at ease and continued to challenge the Iron Man. A few days later, Blue Spirit Star Palace indeed sent people over to remove the Iron Man. The rules could not be changed, but they could take back the Iron Man. It could be seen that Blue Spirit Star Palace attached great importance to this matter. Xia Wufeng and company also found out about this matter. Fortunately, they had already gathered enough Xian points and would be able to exchange for the pills they needed. Even if the Iron Men were removed, it wouldn't have much of an impact on them. They would only lose a way to quickly obtain Xian points. They took a lot of Xian point notes to Elder Su and exchanged them for a gold vein spirit pill and 3 gold origin spirit pills. Next up, everyone will receive a huge boost. Xia Wufeng said with a smile. Although the Xian points had been exchanged for items with Qin Yun and company, he did not care at all. That was because he could obtain a set of light pattern equipment. This was also a great harvest. We're going to cultivate the Vajra Inner Yuan. Hee. I really hope that the final examination will come soon. We need to enter the Xian level martial arts academy as soon as possible. Mu Rongjun chuckled and said, there must be a lot of beauties with high standards inside. I'll be satisfied if I can conquer 3 or 4 of them. Qin Yun said with a smile, I'm going back to my room to cultivate. I need to catch up to you guys as soon as possible. He had obtained 1 gold vein spirit pill and 1 gold origin spirit pill each. He could refine the 3 great Vajra scriptures and Vajra Inner Yuan in one go. In the next few days, Qin Yun, Hui Zhong, and Mu Rongjun were refining spirit pills in their rooms. Although Qin Yun had to refine 2 pills, he was the fastest among the 3 of them to finish. This meant that his absorption ability was very strong. When Xia Wufeng saw Qin Yun come out, he said in surprise, Brother Yun, you're really fast. How's your cultivation going? Very smoothly. I've successfully cultivated the Vajra Inner Yuan. Qin Yun smiled and released a ball of inner qi. That aura was much stronger than before he underwent the Vajra transformation. Chapter 119. Ghost Beast, I've finally cultivated the Vajra Inner Yuan. Mu Rongjun's laughter suddenly rang out. He skipped in the hall, picked up the fruit, and took a bite. He said with a smile, I will be able to enter the Star Xian Wu Academy very soon. The beautiful students and teachers inside must have been waiting for me for a long time. After I enter the Star Xian Wu Academy, I will definitely be the most handsome boy in the history of the Martial Arts Academy. Qin Yun caught the apple he tossed over and said with a smile, I can't be sure if you're the most handsome, but you're definitely the most narcissistic. Mu Rongjun said with a chuckle, Brother Yun, I know you're jealous of me. Don't worry, I'll leave you a few beautiful senior sisters. The tall Hui Zhong also came out of the room, causing the ground to tremble slightly. He laughed and said, Second Brother Morong, have you forgotten about the Demoness Ming? She went to the Star Xian Wu Academy. Do you dare to hook up with her? At the mention of Meng failing, Mu Rongjun, who was originally smiling happily, froze. He curled his lips and said, She's not a woman at all. She's a demoness. Mu Rongdaran had suffered greatly at Meng Fei Ling's hands. This made Qin Yun secretly rejoice because he had a good relationship with Meng Fei Ling. In the future, when he went to the Star Xian Wu Academy, he would definitely be taken care of by her. Boss, yeah, we are currently at the peak of the 6th level martial body realm, right? Qin Yun asked. Xia Wufeng nodded and said, After cultivating the Vajra Inner Yuan, you will be able to condense the Vajra Inner Force and release the Vajra Inner Strength. You have already reached the peak of the 6th level martial body. And next, I will have to break through to the 7th level martial body. I will need to use the Vajra Inner Force to transform the bones in my body into Vajra Spirit Bones. After cultivating the Vajra Spirit Bone and having the Vajra Skeleton, one can be considered to have stepped into the 7th level of the martial body realm. The 7th level martial body realm is the Golden Body Realm. It's extremely important. The martial body realm mainly cultivated the martial body. The further one went, the more attention they paid to tempering the physical body. Xia Wufeng continued, You have just cultivated the Vajra Inner Yuan, so you can't rush it. You need to take it step by step and steadily improve it. Sometimes it also depends on luck. Currently, in the 3 Mysterious Academy, We are the strongest at the 6th level of the martial body realm. It should be easier to pass the examination as a team. Dang, dang, dang. Outside, there was a crisp sound of a bell. What's the important matter? Then, he walked out with Qin Yun and company. When they arrived at the square in the middle of the valley, they only saw a few people scattered around. In order to obtain Shin points, the other teams went to hunt evil beasts. The remaining students in the valley were all recuperating. Dembai also knew that there were only a few people, but he still rang the bell. However, when he saw Xiao Wufeng and the others, his eyes lit up. I suddenly have a very important matter. Dembai looked at Qin Yun and company and said, previously, there was a group of disciples from Blue Spirit Star Palace. After heading to the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range, they encountered danger and needed support. All the students here can go look for them. If they successfully help them, they will be able to obtain 1,000,000 Shin points. 1,000,000 Shin points was neither too much nor too little. It could be exchanged for quite a few good things. It was still very tempting to Qin Yun and company. Teachers can also go. They are in a very bad situation right now, Dembai said again. Where are they? Xiao Wufeng asked. If I knew, I would have gone myself. That's why I need you to help me find them. Dembai's expression was somewhat solemn as he warned. They brought the Iron Men with them, but they still fell. Once they discover that they don't have enough strength to save them, hurry back and tell me. Xiao Wufeng nodded and said to Qin Yun and company, let's go now. Qin Yun and company had just cultivated the Vajra inner Yuan, and their strength had greatly increased. They also wanted to go out and test the strength of the Vajra inner force. Just like last time, Xiao Wufeng used a rope to hang them over the huge mountain and arrived at the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range. This mission is extremely urgent. Even the teachers have been dispatched. Murong Darren looked at a teacher who had just flown past in the sky. Aren't the disciples of the Star Palace very strong? Why are they asking for help now? They are bringing those terrifying Iron Men. Huizhong walked on the road with a frown. He muttered, we must have encountered something powerful. It might even be a rank 9 demon beast. Qin Yun said, I don't know. We have to be even more careful. Following that, they began to search the forest. After a few days, they finally found something. In the dense forest, Qin Yun squatted beside a large tree and pointed at the footprints on the ground. He said, look, isn't this the footprints of an Iron Man? Yes. I was kicked by an Iron Man before and a footprint was left on my body. It's exactly the same as this one. Mu Rongjun said with certainty. Xiao Wufeng said, we can now determine the direction they are in. Let's go. We have to be careful of those teachers on the way. Within the 3 Mysterious Academy, there were quite a few teachers who were hostile towards them, especially those from the Star Palace. In the next few days, they followed the footprints deeper and deeper into the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range. They were also very close to the disciples of the Star Palace. They arrived at a forest where large trees were swaying left and right. There were traces of an intense battle here. Their footprints are very messy, as if they were being chased by something. However, I didn't find any other footprints. Qin Yun said with a frown, looks like that thing can fly. There's an aura over there. Xiao Wufeng suddenly said before flying towards a tall mountain. Qin Yun and company followed behind as they ran over. After going over, they saw a cave. Is there anyone inside? Xiao Wufeng shouted towards the cave. Who are you? A few voices came from inside. There were quite a few people inside. We are students of the 3 Mysterious Academy. Xiao Wufeng answered. Not long after, people came out one after another. There were more than 10 people in total, and they were all disciples of the Star Palace. There were also a few tall Iron Men walking in front. When Qin Yun arrived, he was alarmed when he saw the disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace. This was because several of them had lost their arms. Most of the disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace were at the 6th level of the martial body realm, and there were only 2 at the 7th level. However, they had 5 Iron Men, and they were also very strong. Whoosh! A gust of wind suddenly blew over, and 3 middle-aged men suddenly descended from the sky. They were teachers from Blue Spirit Star Palace. They actually found this place as well. When they saw them arrive, Xia Wufeng and the others cursed in their hearts. "Senior brother, we encountered a ghost beast." A man with 2 broken arms cried. "Our arms were eaten." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.